Oh, what were we talking about?
Or a separate clip, Munchkin Patrol Invasion. the Munch Stapo.
Yeah.
You're going to mention something about Avery, Drake.
Oh, because Avery says like, people when they talk to him on the phone and then they meet him in person, and he's like,
"You're black."
Oh, I thought you were white.
Like, I didn't know you were Canadian.
I didn't know you were bald.
I couldn't tell you from your accent that you were a Canadian.
That's it. Yeah.
What were we talking about before?
You were talking about introducing yourself as black. Your mom said you weren't. She was wondering.
Oh
yeah. She was asking if I'm black, or if I consider myself black, and there was this point of, well, whenever we would introduce ourselves in the past, or like whenever we would talk to people who would ask, be like, yeah, we're black, right?
That comes up, right?
It does.
How does that come up? Like, what's the context of where it comes up? Like, I've never had that conversation with someone.
You know who it comes up with?
Yourself white?
Okay, wait.
See, you don't understand the privilege that you have. You never have. You never get the. I was gonna say the privilege. I never get the privilege of being asked what my race is.
Yeah. I wonder why. People just assume.
I don't know why there's assumptions.
People assume your race and your gender. It's like, it's rude.
What a world we live in today. Jesus.
Yeah. But when people see me, they automatically ask, what am I? Because they're like, you look black, but your hair is not. And so like, that's it.
Okay.
That's what they make their assumption. Which I understand, because I got good hair,
People just like, you're walking down the street and they're like, excuse me, what are you?
Yes.
Oh, my name is Drake and I'm black.
Yeah. I'm a human being. You may not have seen one before.
Yeah, but like, what are you though?
But anyways.
Yeah, put that aside. Don't care.
Yeah. That's pretty much how those conversations
tell me what
go.
race you are, and then I'll decide that.
Yeah. Ooh, ouch. But that's what I wanted to talk about, though. Right?
Slow down, Darwin.
That's what I wanted to talk about, because that's a good one. That BLM guy was talking about education and talking about how if we're not looking at, or former BLM guy, if he said, if we're not looking at education for Black and brown people, then you don't really care, right? We're not getting anywhere near the root of the problem, right? Which I agree with. But the way I look at Black now is very much like, if you look at the caste system in India, I was going to say India and system together. Yeah.
Good point.
Look at that.
No one's arguing that the lower classes should be educated, who's also upholding that caste system.
Right. Black is like synonymous with the untouchables over there. Right. And it's really interesting because in their laws,
there was like a superhero movie called The Untouchables, and then like they couldn't sell it in India.
Because no, we can't touch that. Sorry.
Yeah, I just thinking of that.
But if you look at their laws in India, they make laws to fight for like the untouchables and everything. Like they're a part of the system and everything. You can't discriminate against them, all this stuff, right? But people still treat them mostly like.
Hold on one sec. Keep going.
Yeah, people treat them mostly like, no, they're still racist toward them, right? But the analogy here is like the way that we treat untouchables, or the way that we treat Black in general, it's not just based on skin color. If you're thinking racism is based on skin color, they got you.
Boom. Nice.
Because it's entirely about class system, right? And so we have a class system. Yeah.
So how does the class system discriminate?
So the class system
how
discriminates
does it differentiate?
on money. Here in the US, it's funny because it's like the caste system over there of, you're born into it. You're born into this class or caste or whatever, right? But here in the US, it's mostly, they have, I think the class above the untouchables is the peasants, right?
Right.
And it's like as if the peasants are fighting for the rights of the untouchables so they can be peasants too, essentially. Because those people who are fighting for, and mostly it's white people. You gotta just open your eyes and look. It's mostly white people who are fighting on behalf of blacks, right?
Right. Okay.
But if you look at it, they're still peasants. They're not actually a privileged class. Not really. They're just maybe one step above, or they perceive that they're one step above, right? But the reality of it is they're not the ones controlling things. They're not the elite. They don't have any
They're like,
privileges
come on, I want these people to be slaves just like me.
Right.
They're too lowly of slaves.
Yeah. It's not fair. The grunt work you give them the same grunt work you give me.
That's just so they care.
Yeah. But the point that I was really wanting to make was that I see Black now more so as like a culture that you buy into.
Right.
In order to participate in that system, you have to agree with it. Otherwise, if you're I don't know, if you're like me, like I know that someone's gonna take offense to this. I know they're gonna say things or like, oh, his opinion is discounted. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter because he is privileged or whatever the fuck they want to say, right? But I'm okay with that because I'm not participating in that system. I don't want to buy into like, oh no, I want you to accept me. I don't care. But a lot of it has to do with getting other people or shaming other people so that you want to feel like you're accepted.
Right.
And it's the same thing, really. It's the same thing that's going on today with on the other end with like the masks and everything and the vaccines and everything, is like people are being shamed into, you should feel like you have to wear a mask or get the vaccine, or feel like you're killing people, or feel like you're not thinking about others. You're a shameful person. You're a bad person. How dare you go travel or whatever, be with your family and be happy. When there's people dying, it's like, it's so funny. I was telling you guys earlier, I forgot that that people are wearing masks because I live in Florida.
Yeah.
Where,
what a world. When I'm figuring out Ontario is locked down worse than like Germany.
It's crazy. It's crazy because if I
in the
go,
future, they're going to be like, oh, like Nazi Ontario.
Nazi Ottawa.
Oh, where are you from? Like Ontario?
Damn Nazis. Yeah. But like, if I go like just a few minutes outside of the city here, outside of any major city here, even like to the beach towns, anything, barely anyone participates. And it's really like you're watching a show almost, where it's like, oh, here are the players, and like you can actually be a part of the show too if you want. You can play along with them, or you can just ignore it, right? But what I'm seeing is like, it's so funny because if you look at maybe someone in your area, Asif, like in Canada, they might look at Florida and go, well, they just don't care. They're so
What do people
reckless.
say about that? Do you know?
Yeah, what do people say?
Yeah.
Pretty much that.
Is that it? They're just like, yeah, they just don't care.
Like think about the idea that people already have of Texans, for example.
Oh yeah, like they're dumb.
What are you referring to? There's something about Texans?
Classic Texan, am I right?
What is this about Texas?
Listen,
it's like if you travel there, you're like, wow, you're so selfish, and you're just so do you not watch the news? Do you not know what's going on? Do you not know what's happening? They don't care in Florida. Like they're so reckless. If you're like just locked down.
Know about what? What are you talking about?
You know how
this pandemic? What?
You know how KT talks about one of his friends who's like, how'd you hold up throughout? Like, what do you do throughout like a recession like this? He's like, I choose not to participate.
Yeah.
It's like, what recession?
So like that's what I'm saying. Like in Florida here, it's like, okay, if you have that point of view that we just don't care or whatever, I'm okay with that because I don't care, right? But if you look at Florida and see how everyone is just like not wearing masks and like just living life like normal, essentially, like how, you know, like before COVID, let's say that. And you see that nobody is like dying in the streets and anything, how can you then justify what you're doing over there?
Right.
You know what I
That's the
mean?
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, be honest. Look at us. Nobody's fucking going, oh my God, oh, we're rushing to the hospitals. Nobody's fucking doing that. It's like, oh yeah, Floridians just don't care. Like, yeah, we don't, because we're living our lives and people are coming here by droves. They're visiting, they're having a good time. It's like, you could be doing this too. But you want to participate in that. So that's on you. You're welcome to do that, I guess. But you don't have to talk shit about us. Like, we're good. We're living life. We're enjoying life.
We're living it.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
No
Come on down,
masks.
baby.
No masks.
We can
No
walk
masks.
around freely. We can go to parks. We can go in grocery stores.
Did you say no mask, no ass?
No mask, no class, no ass.
What?
Hey,
Drake got booty.
hey.
That's
To
all.
answer the question, are you black?
Oh,
Is
so
that a
it's
thing? Black people have butts
Never heard of it.
and other people don't?
Yeah, I think it's like black people can't dance. White people have big
That's
booties.
a common stereotype. Black people have butts.
only black people have butts. What,
Only.
what do you shit out of, Cameron? I've always been curious.
There's just like a
What is this?
Is there just like a line on your back? Just-
like the back, and then it just keeps going. Oh God, this is the podcast.
Whew.
I think this is when you know when like we're one episode too far. I think we got to call it quits.
we're episode 51 now. Or
no, this
50?
is 50. This is 50.
So we only have two more before it's a year's worth of podcasts.
Ooh,
Yes.
not bad.
Just
Did we
pretty
skip
quick.
one when we were at
We
your
skipped a
place?
couple weeks.
But I mean, in terms of number,
That's fair.
yeah, there was 1 week we skipped or something.
So when people jump in, they can listen to 2 podcasts a week for
Going
a year
forward.
and then be caught up.
Yeah.
Like that math? If they started at 52.
oh, is it because we're halfway through the year? Or
No. If they started next week or at 52,
uh-huh.
then if they listen to 2 podcasts a week, then for a year, they'd be good.
They'd get a fresh one and an old one.
Bruh, 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 bruh.
A fresh one and an old one. Okay, so well, here's something we can. Oh, was there anything else to the education story?
So
or-
basically, you're
Oh, yeah.
You're-
Wait.
'Cause we got
there
like
was
way
one.
off tangent. I think that was the issue. We just
That
started
was-
talking about masks.
Yeah, there was another
yeah.
No,
point.
but
to
what's
the-
crazy about the whole education thing is it's like the
Dude, you're
argument
super
now
low.
is being made of like that's just white people care about education or something, and it's like holy fuck, man.
yeah.
So you don't even want to be honest about what's required to exist in the system.
Hmm.
And yet here's the problem. Let's say we just get rid of the whole competitive system.
Uh-oh.
Then what do we have?
I guess we have to cooperate.
But no one knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing. So that doesn't mean we should justify the current system. It's just you got to have a real solution. And so what I see is this whole thing is all about really arguing for something that totally disempowers people so that the elite can just continue doing whatever the fuck they want. But then under the guise of, oh, we're eliminating all of the bullshit that nobody wants to participate in. You see what I mean? Like, we're just going to get rid of private property because private property is racist anyways, guys. And it's like, yeah, but Jeff Bezos isn't going to do that. And even if they do, he'll still have $1 million properties. He just won't, quote, own them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not like everyone's going to have access to that equally.
People can't own property. Corporations can own property.
People
That's
can't
right.
own property. Property can own people.
Or not, man.
Yeah. I guess just to finish or wrap up that point of like black and education, there's also that thing of like black as a culture. And it's really a culture that it's detrimental. I'll just say it. It's detrimental to the people who participate in it. You know, it doesn't really matter what your skin color is. And part of that culture is being uneducated in the traditional sense or uneducated in the sense of like reading.
But aren't we looking past the fact that people are acting like they can choose their culture?
People can choose their culture though.
Well, but not if you're not being self-honest.
Not if you're being, not if you're not being self-honest.
You're just a product of the culture you were born into.
For sure.
And,
For sure.
and people who switch cultures, it's just like you're just adopting another set of beliefs.
Yes.
And you're dressing differently and acting differently, but you haven't really fundamentally changed anything.
Yes.
There's still no focus on, okay, but what's actually best? That's
Right.
never the discussion. It's
Right.
always just.
It's like in rugby, the association is that if you play rugby, they're like a higher level. But if you play rugby, you're like a heavy drinker, and you always go to a bar afterwards. If you're a skater, then you have tattoos engaged in your ear. It's like we can't separate the character, the personality from the activity, we just can't separate things. We don't have the ability to specify to the degree where, oh, I see the difference when we're talking about skin color or like behaviors and attitudes that fit under the umbrella of culture, right? In the same way of like, well, it's literally all the time. It's like, that's why we play identity politics. It's like, okay, if you're a blank, that means you have all of these characteristics. So like what I'm gathering from what you're sharing, Drake, is like, are you black? It's like, you can look at me and deduct.
Yeah.
Like you can figure it out, but that's not what you're asking, or else
Right.
you wouldn't ask the question. You're asking is like, do I participate in black culture?
Right.
But what is black culture?
I mean, the
Watermelon, fried chicken,
Great
collard
point.
greens.
Yeah.
But is that universal? Like if you go, I'm asking, like if you go to New York, is black culture you eat fried
Right.
chicken? And
But
watermelon?
again, you're associating black culture with black people.
No, I'm
That's what you're
I'm
asking,
actually
right?
saying like black culture. If you live in New York and you're black, meaning culture,
That's what I'm saying. That's
fried
what I'm
chicken
saying.
and watermelon.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the case.
And if
It's
you're in
just,
California, and if you're in,
like
really?
I'm sure you have a bunch of white people.
I'm sure white people like chicken and watermelon too. Fried
No,
chicken.
I mean I wasn't trying to argue like that. I'm just asking, like, is there an actual cohesive black culture? Actually,
Not
Or is it
really.
like,
No,
there's
there
some
is-
general things that are the same, but actually it's very different if you go to New York than if you go to Houston, isn't it? Is it different? It's not exactly the same.
Right.
It's a little different. There are a few things that are very similar, and then there are obviously things that are different, right? One thing that I've noticed anywhere I go, like if there's another black person there, like, but I think this is probably true for anybody. Like someone your same skin color, you see them, you gravitate towards them, right?
100%.
And then like
Yes.
especially for like whenever I'm in like a foreign place and there's not a lot of black people, anytime there's someone with my same skin color, there's like a nod. There's a nod that goes on. There's like, hey, what's up? Like an acknowledgement,
100%.
Yeah.
I don't know if white people do that.
Well,
But-
it's just how often do white people find themselves in like a large group of black people and there's like one other white dude?
Right.
See, that's
I
why
know that
white people
happens.
can't understand the privilege they have,
That's right.
because they could just be in a space where they're surrounded by people all the time.
You've never been
I mean, there's a
surrounded
certain
by blacks.
rationality to that point. There's a certain validity to it.
Yeah.
This is the
So,
problem.
well,
You
yeah.
can-
What's the actual problem?
even Black Lives Matter, all these different things, they can diagnose the symptoms. And I don't really disagree generally on the symptoms.
Right.
It's the solution that I don't agree with, because there's no
Yeah.
solution. It's like we were talking about with that guy from Black Lives Matter, and he's saying, well, their solution is like not about educating black kids. So how are they actually for Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like the point that he brings up, is the same point that I've had from the very beginning of, okay, how can you possibly be against school choice? Where is the logic at all from anyone at all? How can you possibly be against giving, because the only people that it benefits, or the people that it benefits the most rather, is the exact communities that you claim to defend and want to promote and encourage to be better, right? But how can you possibly be against the money that every child that goes
Who's
to every
actually
school
against
on
that?
on
Who's
behalf of
actually
the children, right? It's the teachers unions.
Like he said, which makes sense because
Right.
they are the ones who automatically get that money. So it's like you don't want your basic residual income basically to
Right.
go away.
which makes sense
Right.
on that scale. But if you're talking about like the teachers unions are also the ones who are at the forefront of, hey, we need to do something for the Black race and all this. Okay, sure, great. But
what do they say? We need more funding.
Yes, but it's in direct contradiction because they have to go to shittier schools. Here's what they're saying. They're saying they have to go to shittier schools. It's not fair. We need more funding. And then, well, why don't you just give them the choice to go to whatever school they want to go to? They can choose the better school because they get the funding. They can pay for it. They can afford it now. So they have the same capabilities. No. They have to go to this worst school until they get more funding. And they want to go like through this bureaucratic route that doesn't even make sense. It's never worked.
Give the money to the schools and they'll be better schools. And it's that's not
how
that works. Do you go to that? Does a teacher make any different money in the better school? I don't know. Do they?
Yeah.
Like if you're in the shitty neighborhood or you're in like the better neighborhood next to it, do you make more as a teacher in this one versus that one?
Yeah, I think so.
What is that based on? Like they actually pay, it's the same public school system. I mean, I don't know.
You know what it's based on? It's based on the taxes of that county. Right? So like typically if you're in a shittier neighborhood, the taxes are lower, they get less funding, the teachers get paid less.
Oh yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
So if you're in a wealthier neighborhood,
but again, this is based on
teachers. I thought teachers didn't do it for the money. I thought they just did it.
Yeah, you're assuming that if you pay them more money, they'll do better.
Yeah, they'll be better teachers, or they'll attract better teachers, I suppose, because they're paying more. Even though the difference between 50 and 60,000 a year is like, what's the difference in skill level here? What's the difference in skill level between 50 and 75,000 a year?
Not that much a difference.
Is there that much of a difference in teaching skill level? And what is it that okay, let's just break it down. Hold on. Let's just break it down because we're kind of looking past the sale. It's like, what does it mean for a school to be a better school versus a shitty school? What do they mean by that? Now we're getting into it, guys. This is where the podcast starts to hit
it.
See Cameron, he put his 2 books in the back to show you that he's got books still. Because what's a man without his books?
Those are books I got in the mail the other day. Katie's like, why are you still ordering books? I told you to pack up all your books. And I'm like, we got a couple more days.
It's okay. The books will come in a box and then I'll just put them back in the box.
It's hilarious.
I'm just going to, on the day of the move, they're going to have like the truck open and then Amazon's just going to be like putting like the books,
new books into your moving truck. But yeah, the way they're measuring that is test score increase. Less crime, less suspensions, less expulsions.
I think that, and also like I don't know if this is obvious to everyone, but in a lot of those like inner city schools, there's not actual teaching that goes on. Like it's mostly just managing behavior. And so
if all of those kids went to better schools, would those individual children's behavior change? Or would it just be, you don't have to go to school with those shitty kids, so you can now go to a better school, but what about all those shitty kids? Like, in other words, what I'm asking is, rhetorically, is it because the school sucks and that's why there's not a lot of teaching because that teacher just sucks? Is a shitty teacher?
What you're saying, what makes the school suck? Is it the students?
Because I'll tell you another story.
Money? Yeah. Is it
I had a client who, this was many years ago, she was a white woman who lives in like the nicest neighborhood here in Houston. Well, one of the nicest neighborhoods here in Houston. And she, her background was a teacher, and she volunteered at the museum, doing stuff at the museum, but she decided to go and be a teacher at one of what you would call or consider an inner city school here in Houston. Although there's not really inner city schools per se, but it's like that same kind of what you think, right?
Yeah.
Where it's basically all Black. And she said, when she would go in there, she said the students like had no respect for her whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She's one of these, like, she was a really nice person, but she was like very liberal, like all of those things that come with that, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, she's a person who you would think would go in there and be like, I want to help and do the best that I can do. And like, she wasn't going in there like with a obviously judgmental attitude or anything. She was going in there thinking, hey, I want to help. Like, they need help. So she's like, she didn't need the money. Like, they were very wealthy. She was just doing it because she thought she could help. Right. I mean, I'm just telling you from what she told me. Right. obviously there could be a lot of like bullshit beliefs and stuff as to real motivation, but just on the surface, right? So anyway, so I would be over there every once in a while, and I just noticed she would be drinking more and more and more every time I'd see her.
Jeez.
Because and I could see the stress. And she was telling me one time when she kind of opened up about it, she was like saying how the students did not respect her at all. They were crazy. And she said as soon as a black woman would come in the room, all the kids would like get real like.
Dude, so my mom was a teacher, right? My mom was a teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And she said at the school that she was teaching, those kids were wild, but she did not accept
they were
that
wilding
in her classroom.
Were they wilding out?
They were wilding. They were wilding. But she said she did not accept that in her classroom. And every time a student would come into her class, like she was very strict with them, and she like demanded respect of them. And she said all the other teachers would be like, how do you get the kids to like listen to you? And then she said like eventually at the end of the year, the kids would come back and they'd be like, you know, you were our best teacher. Because like in a sense, she wouldn't accept them like just doing their own thing. She forced them in a way to like sit, listen, and actually do something towards them.
And nothing against your mom, but at the end of the day, did those kids actually get educated because of it?
No. But
I'm not saying you're claiming that. It's just like, even if all the teachers in that school system did that, we know that would all still have no effect. So the real question is, why do these better schools get better results?
I forget what podcast or how long ago, but somebody was talking about how a superintendent was, maybe it wasn't even on the podcast, but the way in which they actually measure school success, like what metrics they're focused on.
Who was telling us that?
It might have been Rebecca. I'm not sure.
Somebody, yeah.
But they're not focused on, like, one of the metrics that they're focused on is dropout rate.
Like all they cared about, was like all the negative.
One of them was like, okay, how many like times did the cops come or something?
Yeah, like detentions, cop incidents.
So the point is,
they were just more like, I don't want to have these negative things. Yeah.
Yeah, the point is like, all the teachers doing that would support those metrics, but those metrics are stupid metrics to measure whether how effective school is.
That would be the culture of the school, right? Would be like, who has the least dropouts, the least this, the least reports to the principal, stuff like that. Versus
like very survival based, in other words.
Versus if you go to the nicer schools, they're going to be looking at it more like who's got the highest reading scores, who's got the best SAT. Like I went to a private school for high school. No, okay. I went to a private school where it was predominantly white, not only. I mean, there was obviously all different races, and there was, it was a Catholic school, but there was also Jews, Muslims, other stuff too. And yet everybody that was there participated in the culture of the school, which was like high discipline, don't fuck around. And there was definitely kids who goofed around and stuff too, but it was like, that was far and few between. And there would be some teachers who would kind of let you get away with stuff, but that was far and few between. Like it wasn't in any way the rule. So I can see that there is a difference in schools, right? Of course, the school I went to, now kids are paying $20,000+ a year to go to that school. So of course the parents are going to demand something better, but they wouldn't be paying that money if they weren't going to be getting that in the first place.
Yeah.
But to even get into the school, you had to test into it unless you were an athlete. And those were always the kids that they would give the leeway to.
That's right.
So it's like they would get away with not having the same standards of behavior and everything to a certain degree. And then there were some of the athletes who took it seriously.
Yeah.
But there was definitely the higher proportion of Black kids that were there for athletics. Although there were definitely kids that were Black who were there just of their own merit or their parents' merit and so forth, from a financial whatever perspective, that were just as good academically and so forth. But then there was the kids who like literally were just recruited basically for sports, and they couldn't, even though it was kind of like this sort of, you're expected to perform, there was always that leeway given to a certain degree. You know what I mean? And so it's like the students coming into it, you see what I mean, are going to determine also what you're able to do.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you get a bunch of kids who know how to read in kindergarten, your expectations are going to be different than the kids who can't, especially when we know how difficult it is at that stage to get a child to learn how to read. Right. And so you can have all this discipline and everything, but then again, even the metrics that they use, I mean, what are the metrics that they're using for charter schools? Do you see what I mean? To show that the charter schools are so much better.
Less dropout rate.
What are the actual metrics, right? Because our reading scores, all the educational points in the United States are still dropping.
Yeah.
Even in the private schools, everywhere. I know, I have firsthand experience in all of these different situations. So even the people who are like, oh, the charter schools, man, they really, you know, give them that choice. I'm not saying I'm against people having a choice. I'm just saying in itself, it's a false debate, because you could put all the kids in charter schools. How is that going to create a generation of children who can think critically?
Right. Right. And
all it is going to be a generation of kids who are more disciplined within sitting and focusing.
That's the point, isn't it? Is like, you know, private school is not any better than, it's like, it's still school.
Think about this. Who does school the best?
Who does school the best? Like women, girls?
No, I meant country.
The most obedient.
Oh, best
What'd
country.
you say?
Like the Finnish.
What'd you say, Cameron? The most.
Yeah. Who has the best school system? Like the best result?
Like Sweden, and like the people who have like one race, one predictable.
I was going to say China. I mean, that still all applies. But they're basically
control.
like total discipline, obedience, hyper competitiveness, all this stuff. You don't see everybody coming out of there fucking critical thinkers, entrepreneurs. They're all just fucking obedient, surveillance, massive surveillance state. Obey the party.
Dude, when you talk to people like from China, like it's different if you're like second generation here, you know.
Sure.
But like people from China, they feel like it's so funny. There'll be those people who are like, I can't talk about that. and they'll look around like, but really? Like I hate, you know, whatever.
Oh, for real though?
Yeah. I hate that I can't use Twitter. I hate that I can't use Facebook. You know,
but for real, guys, on the down low, I fucking hate noodles, man. I can't stand fucking noodles. I just can't eat another fucking noodle. Okay, but anyways, I didn't say that.
Yeah. And then you've got the other people who are like, I would never say anything about China. Like I love it. It's the best
About what?
country.
They're just like
China.
China
Yeah.
is amazing. I love China. Xi Jinping is amazing. I love communism.
Exactly.
Anyways, what did someone say something?
Yeah. Exactly.
Dude, did you just like black out?
Oh, that's like you ever watch I used to watch this show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's the best fucking cartoon. Anyway, I used to watch the show there, and it was set basically like in Asia, China, and there was a particular city where everything was basically like China, but in old times or whatever, right? And there was this phrase that they would have whenever somebody would go against the government. They would disappear, and then they would come back, and they would be docile, and they'd be like demure, and they'd say, "What happened? We missed you. Like, where'd you go? Like, is there something wrong?" And they would reply, "There's nothing wrong in Ba Sing Se," like something to that effect. It's not the exact quote, but like anytime like you'd press them on like, well, what's going on behind those city walls? There's nothing wrong in Ba Sing Se, you know? And so like, that's pretty much how people from China, when they come here, they're either like, I can't really say, or they're like, there's nothing wrong in Ba Sing Se. And it's like this, you know, straight party line. But I don't know what the point I was making with that.
Dude, I just posted a video today. I don't know if I sent it to y'all. And it was this campaign China did where they got all these Uyghur Muslims to like make videos saying like Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, is wrong and about talking about China. Like everything in our wherever it was, Xinjiang or whatever, is great and nothing's wrong here. There's no propaganda.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know you did send us the video of the guy like breaking that down.
Yeah.
Of how like, and they're all named Julia or Gulia, like, which is,
I remember that.
No, like the women that they have making these videos, he says like are apparently they're Uyghur Muslims, but
they're all named Julia.
yeah, they're all named Julia, and they all have like, this is the story of whatever that province is in China. And it's like, it's
so obvious propaganda. And he breaks down
Yeah.
all the reasons why it's obvious propaganda.
Exactly.
It just reminds me of that, because it's like you just want obedience in the point, right?
Right. It's like, I guess when I watched that video, the first thing that I was thinking of, because he's saying this is a massive campaign to misinform the West, to make you question or make you not know what the hell's going on.
They're taking a place that's about total obedience and not questioning anything and making it the best, and then taking the place, the United States, where you're allowed to do that openly and making it like it's the worst.
Right.
So by default, you have to accept, well, obviously freedom of speech sucks because look at how amazing they have it over there. So we just need to not have any of that. That's a necessary thing to happen for people to accept that psychologically when we get to the 2030, you own nothing and you've never been happier.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people to complain about it.
Right.
Just get used to like, you don't complain about shit. Like you just accept it and you go on. Another thing I was thinking about too with that 2030 thing is it said, I think I told you this, Drake, but it's like, it doesn't say it's 2030, you own nothing and you're happy. Correct me. I mean, you can probably look it up. Maybe I'm wrong, but pretty sure it said it's 2030. I own nothing and I've never been happier.
I own nothing. I have no property and things have never been better, or I've never been happier.
Or maybe that's what things have never been better. Yeah, maybe that's what. But I think there was I've never been happier. Maybe I got it wrong. Can you look it up?
And life has never been better.
Life has never been better. Right. Like, okay, same point I was going to make though. When was it ever good?
Yeah. I mean,
when were you ever just like, oh, life is amazing? 90% of the time.
That's so funny. Life has never been better. Life is not going to get better for you. I'm sorry. It's like you've reached the pinnacle. That's right. It. You know,
it's never been better. It's never getting better. It's not going to get better. Just accept.
Yeah.
So, but going back to the point we were talking about with the schools and so forth, the point I was trying to bring in was like, if the argument, I mean, obviously you're not going to see on Fox News them debating about what Technotutor, not yet. But what I'm saying is, so that's like, we're bringing that point in, right? Which is the self-perfected point. So it's like, is the solution just put all the kids into charter schools? I mean, as a temporary point, that's probably better than this current situation. But is it going to solve the problem ultimately?
No.
It's not going to solve the problem, because you're still going to have the kids going home to single parents, mostly single moms, where their hands are full and they're trying to work and survive. And what is that school preparing those kids for? That's the real question. Because if they actually supported the child to really become educated, it'd be like, cool, that's a great solution. But the problem is, what is it going to educate the child to do? Like, because we all know what's in school.
Yeah.
You guys weren't in school that long ago that you can't, it hasn't changed that much since y'all were in school.
I think
so. It's like, what are you actually learning that's preparing you for life?
If you go back to like the China example, like you can see really clearly, it's like you're just creating people or cogs in this wheel of the China system.
You're creating a predictable society. So when you impulse certain points in the future, everybody responds in the same way. I don't know if you guys saw this, but and I don't know where else this is happening, but in Ontario, they've made it official. They have extracurricular esports. So instead of, you can play soccer, you can play basketball competitively across other schools, or you can play Super Smash Brothers.
Well, that sounds like an easy choice.
So what was that?
I said that sounds like an easy choice. Although honestly, I liked playing soccer in school. So
exactly, I enjoyed it too. But it's like, if you really look at it, it's this entire, it's like changing the way, sorry, it's because I see it from all the angles of how people see it versus how I see it from like an inner to outer perspective. But it's like, nobody wants to do anything real anymore. Nobody cares about their body anymore, their health, all that stuff. If they don't have to go outside, they won't. You know what I mean? And now it's getting like, it's like heralded. It's like in the newspaper. This was in the newspaper because we get this newspaper to our mailbox because we just moved here not too long ago. And it's like the local newspaper, right? And it's like a picture of this like brother and sister And it's like, look, like they play Super Smash, and she learned at 7 years old from her older brother because that was the only way she could hang out with her cousins and stuff like that. It's like, so if this was the case when I was a child, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
If I was being rewarded for playing more video games, I'd be fucked.
It's like every child's dream come true.
The thing that would
like a total
thing that
nightmare.
would get me to stop playing video games is I had soccer practice. Right? It's like there's no redeeming. There. By the way, there's no organized sports because you can't go close to people.
Yeah.
Right? You see, so to put that other piece of the puzzle, it's like schools aren't even fucking open and they're adding esports. Like I don't even understand. You see what I'm saying? So there's Mailat was texting somebody, and basically the person responded with this long message. She was in the school system since 1987, and she left a story. But it was kind of interesting. That gives a little perspective about how the school system has adapted over time because she's been watching it for 34 years, right? Can I read it to you guys? Cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what your monitor's up there?
Yeah, that's what.
Because like earlier, like staring off, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" I'm gonna put my monitor like down there on the ground,
just in my lap.
Yeah, you're always just like this.
Yeah.
Is in another room. It's like shouting.
Yeah. I entered the public education system as an educator in 1987 in North Texas. Shout out, Cameron. After receiving my degree in Oklahoma, I was able to watch the unfolding of.
That's the problem right there, Oklahoma.
I was able to watch the unfolding of the teaching to the test movement in the USA.
Yeah.
I remember that our school was astonished that other schools in the district were actively teaching students differently to achieve better testing results. We thought it was foolish, as the purpose of the test was to obtain a random snapshot of low-level cognition comprehension as a tool to measure student readiness. Just pause
for a second. I just want to make this point. That's what I meant about the charter schools. Is like, are they actually doing an actually better job educating people, or is it just they're getting them all to wear uniforms and do better on the standardized tests?
And that's
we all know are racist, according to, right? But so what is the actual? Yeah. So I just want to throw that in there. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, because anybody can look at it and go, but look, they're doing better. Why would you want to deny that? I'm like, are they actually doing a better job? Like, could that 4-year-old sit with my 4-year-old and they actually can play together?
Yeah, because in your mind, in the average person's mind, they're thinking better test scores is reflective of like a more educated population.
Think about this real quick. I want you to continue, but think about this real quick. Like,
but you see that
the whole
discrepancy?
point of going to school then becomes to get a grade on a test so you can get into college.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't learn anything. So what are you going to learn in college? But the whole point of college is to get a degree so that you can get a job.
To prove that you know
something. That job, if everything's going to be automated, and actually the only jobs available are like high tech jobs.
Yeah.
Where you actually need to know fucking engineering and calculus, and because you have to be a little bit innovative in it.
Dude, in this book I'm reading, it's written by a computer scientist.
It's written by a computer?
By a computer scientist.
Oh, it's a computer that is a scientist. Got it.
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
I am a computer scientist.
Beep, boop, pop, pop.
Those are good impressions, both of you.
Thanks.
Rick, I didn't know you speak computer, dude.
I'm surprised you didn't ask me if I'm black. My dancing skills.
Oh God. But yeah, so he talks about how like doing computer programming is hard. It's difficult. It's not a task that anyone can just pick up and do. Like, even if you're in another like field where you're a knowledge worker working with something that you have to have intelligence for,
that'd be like saying, okay, do you know Greek? You're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I need you to translate this book from Greek into English.
Right.
You'd be like, that's not fucking happening.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, and also in the book, there's a bunch of math problems that are calculus, and I need you to solve them also in Greek, and that way you can put the answers in the back.
Exactly.
Because a computer scientist, you have to know other languages, literal other languages, and you need to be able to solve problems that are based sometimes in mathematics. Or like, if you're a company that has a certain problem, this person now needs to understand your company and your business and your sales process or your technology so they know what the fuck they're trying to solve. So you need to be able to adapt to like lots of other stuff than just computer science. Like you can't just study computer science and then suddenly you're good at computer. Like that's not a thing.
A really great point.
Right.
There's skills in there, and then you also have to be able adaptable. So of course, the person who's going to get through that naturally in the system is a higher vocabulary person in the first place.
Yep.
So in those situations, they'll be able to adapt. But now you're taking people who would never naturally in the system get to that point. And now you're trying to make it look like they can pass all the points to get into that job, but they can't actually do it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's like that point that was being made like a year or two ago, or I guess it was longer now, that Learn to Code, about how like they were telling miners, you know, oh, you got laid off from your mining job. Well, learn to code, you know? And like, I know it became like a facetious thing that you would say to a journalist or whatever.
Yeah, they'd be like, learn to code then. Like, oh, don't complain about losing your journalism job because everything's changing. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And then it became, now it's like racist or something to say it, or sexist.
Right. Yeah. If we actually want to get deplatformed, we should just call this Learn to Code, right? But
I was thinking we should call it Are You Black?
Okay.
Hi, my name is Black.
Hi, my name is Black.
Drake, you're holding the Sharpie that you used to color yourself with.
That's
it. This is how I get black right here. So ladies, if you need a contour, you know, I have a tutorial after this.
Look at that.
Contour.
I don't know what that means, honestly.
I think it means like the shape of your eyebrows.
Is it? I don't know. I know it has something to do with like makeup.
You know, like has something to do with people watching afterwards laughing at us. Oh, is that what? I really think, I mean, I'm not basing this on anything other than just like, I'm very good at observing things. Like, I think that it means like
clearly you're not good at observing.
Okay, I'm looking at
it. I'm pretty sure contour is like when you make it, you shade here darker. So it looks like you have, like you're contouring your face.
Okay. No, that makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I just looked it up. Okay. That actually makes more sense. What does the word contour mean? The actual definition of contour.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you the actual
or cut to or something.
Right, contour. Right.
That sounds
I'm just guessing.
Like as if you're sculpting.
But I'm just so people know what I said made sense, even though it was wrong. An outline, especially one representing or bounding the shape or form of something. So that's why I eyebrows. Contouring was shaping like.
I think you can contour your eyebrows.
Right. But now it makes sense. Like contouring is like how you shade the face and everything. Dude, that is so dishonest.
But dude, like, oh my God. Yeah. That's a whole nother fucking.
How dare you say that it's dishonest? You don't know what women have to do.
Oh man.
Maybe if you weren't contouring your face all the time, guys would leave you alone.
But they don't want to be left alone, dude. Low self-esteem. Dude, think about the vicious cycle that is occurring, and that if nobody stands up, everyone's fucked. It's like dudes are just like paying money for OnlyFans and watching like porn where everyone's perfect, totally artificial. And then girls are like, shit, I'm not going to get any approval if I'm not on OnlyFans and I'm not being ultra fake.
And I can make money just by taking my clothes off, and these guys will pay for it. And then I'm going to complain that
men are such dogs.
Men are such dogs and idiots. And I don't need men. I can make my own money. See what I'm doing over here?
But it's like, need men to be dogs.
If there was only women.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or men were dogs. Yeah.
And then how do you then find a man?
OnlyFans.
Like, oh, you're just but I don't. God, I don't need the men. It's my expression. I'm just expressing myself. If men want to pay that, hey, if you don't want to see it, don't look at it.
But don't judge sex workers.
Wait.
Yeah.
But no, this is so fucked up. Like, men are super addicted to porn because it's like, it's so easy to brainwash people with images.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to get that image out to where it's like, and especially for men, I think it's even more difficult. It's something to do with the way biologically or physiologically or whatever, there's a more specific focus on that. Maybe there's a biological, evolutionary type thing that goes into it. A lot of people have said this already. I'm not the only one saying it, but like, it makes sense to me.
It does.
If I could connect that point is like, your dopamine cycle is related to you staying on the path of getting food or getting, and this is an evolutionary perspective, right? Where it's like, as you're progressing, right? Like, let's say, for example, there's an apple tree, a kilometer away, and
Say mile.
in your field of, what was that?
Say mile. No, don't say kilometer.
A mile away, or 1.4 miles, or 1.4 kilometers, which is a mile, or approximately something like that.
1.6.
But basically, what?
1.6.
1.4 or 1.6, something like that.
1.6667.
Not bad, buddy. So the apple tree is like this big in your vision, like let's say the size of your thumb, if you hold your hand all the way out, right? And then as you stupid.
No one's gonna get that who didn't see before we.
Yeah, if we post that.
It actually is
Hope not.
hilarious. Just imagine
No.
that it's a joke.
No, don't
so
sell,
funny.
don't sell. No. Definitely get deplatformed, dude. So imagine if you put your thumb out in front of you, extend your arm, you put your thumb out. That's how big the apple tree is in your field of view. And then bring your arm in about halfway, and the
Swear to
apple
God, if you start talking about flat Earth right now,
and the light isn't bending at your eye level, so therefore it proves that it's flat. No, as the tree gets bigger in your field of view, dopamine goes off as I am progressing towards food. If it's an apple tree. So that dopamine cycle of rewarding you internally so that you keep progressing to your goal, regardless of how you feel. That's what gets you in this loop of like, I have to provide. Oh, sorry. It gets you to provide by saying, I'm winning when I'm getting closer to capturing my objective.
A really similar process takes
spells
place.
going on right now, everybody. Just spells. I need one of those buttons that's like spells. Did
He
acid freeze or is it just me?
froze, dude. But that's a really similar process to what happens when you're reading too, like when you're reading, you come across letters that you recognize, your brain gets excited and like prepares you for what could possibly be coming next.
People associate that with, therefore you feel good. You don't necessarily consciously feel good, but that it's a way that your nerve cells communicate with each other.
Yeah. So
exactly. It actually makes it go that direction to make that connection occur, so you get that information processing. It's not about feeling good. We've abused it for that reason, but
yeah,
I don't know what happened to Asif.
He's gone. He's fucking gone.
Justin Trudeau was like, talking about Ontario.
No. Yeah.
Like, what were you saying? That was cool. I liked it.
No, like that same process that like as the apple tree gets closer and closer into your field of vision, the same thing happens when you're reading. As you come across words more and more and more, like that you recognize the sentence and what's actually being said, then your brain basically gets excited for the message and you can continue reading the message. But it's the exact opposite of what happens when you don't recognize a word or you don't recognize a letter. Your brain actually inhibits you from continuing forward, and you feel it or experience it as like drowsiness or like resistance. You don't want to keep going. Right.
Leave us a comment if you've never experienced what it's like to actually comprehend something you've read before.
How are they going to write that comment?
You're listening. Just don't read the closed caption.
Though. Like, it's so cool at this point you're saying. Like,
I wish I heard that whole thing, because I think I get the gist of what you're saying. I don't know what the fuck happened.
It's basically like when you're processing information.
Everything is good in Bangla.
Everything you're processing that you're recognizing.
You get that joke?
It's giving you that dopamine. It's like the processing
when people
is occurring.
disappear in that Chinese land, they come back and
Ba Sing Se, dude.
I'm making a joke, dude. Get over
it. Okay, you said Banglava. Like, I'm thinking, is that baklava? Is that Bangladesh?
Everything is good in Shangla.
Okay.
Anyways,
yeah.
I'm assuming what you were talking about. Okay, Cameron, you're just explaining. I'm sorry, dude.
What?
I
was just repeating what Drake was saying.
Yeah. I want to hear it now. I'm sorry.
I'll let Drake explain. He was doing a better job. I was trying to summarize it. He was actually explaining it.
For the third time.
I forgot we were on a podcast, so we can't.
Dude, did Drake freeze now?
Oh, I fucking froze. Oh, no, I'm here.
So it's not just Justin Trudeau. Okay. We were thinking Justin Trudeau was making you freeze, but I'm thinking Black Lives Matter is making Drake freeze.
Did Asif just mute?
Now, okay, your mic went down.
That's so funny. That's so
Many spells.
Hello.
There we go.
I can hear you now.
Okay, how is it right now?
It's fine.
Is it too loud?
No,
No,
it's
it's fine.
perfect.
Drake.
Yes.
Not right. Okay.
Okay.
I think
Well,
we're
that
all
was
stable
weird.
now.
For those of you who are still with us,
We're stabilizing.
Call 911. No.
basically, Asif, he was just explaining how when you're reading and you're recognizing, your brain is releasing chemicals. That's how the neurons communicate with each other, that
Okay.
dopamine. So it's similar to what you were saying, versus if you're not processing it, it's like you get drowsy.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the opposite effect, like you're getting further away from your goal, basically.
For anybody listening, you can look at
That's why reading is so much I love reading. Like, I don't mean it like I'm emotionally obsessed about it. I just mean like I enjoy the process.
you're constantly interested in it.
Well, I just enjoyed reading. Like, if it's something that's not interesting or is irrelevant to my life, I don't like reading that.
Mhm.
But if it's something that makes sense, that actually is written well, that actually makes sense, you know what I mean? Then I
Yeah.
enjoy reading it.
Mhm. And that's it's like the for anybody listening to this, if you ever get
What about for those who aren't listening?
fuck, dude, I forgot about those people. Damn it.
You always forget them. Comment below if you're not listening.
Oh my god.
If a podcast occurs in a forest and no one's around to listen,
Does it make a sound?
Is a podcast? Yeah,
But
depends who likes it.
to wrap up, so we can send it back to Asif, to wrap up that point about education, about
oh yeah, we're still listening to your story.
yeah, we were still listening to that story, but
But how does that relate to
story?
education?
no, his story was about education, wasn't it?
What were you gonna say?
So you're talking about the
Forgot
one
what I was
when your
gonna
mom
say.
asks you whether or not you're black.
No, not that.
Are we going all the way back to that?
No,
Joking, I'm joking.
There's a different story in there.
Oh,
the
wait,
story.
We're talking about computer love,
yeah,
right?
yeah. There we go. No.
From a
Computer.
couple episodes ago. Wait, we're talking about the difference between principles versus feelings, right?
I was gonna make that joke.
We're
Actually,
talking about
Ah, dude,
origins.
sorry, you're too slow, dude.
here's how we met.
But no, to wrap up that point of like, learn to code. That's the point that I was actually want to hit on. Like the way that kids are being educated right now, even if they're going to a charter school, even if they're going to a private school, the way that the world is moving and the kids are being educated, they're not going to be prepared for what's going to be available.
Here it is. Yes, because the school does not physically build their vocabulary so that they can process more information, so that when they read those letters and those words, they recognize it and their brain processes it and they feel good just from a subconscious perspective, and it makes sense and they keep going. Instead, it's a constant process of I don't get this. So they've adjusted the whole system so that they just help you memorize enough shit so you can do enough on a test so that you can get to the next point. But you're not developing any actual understanding. Like if I gave you a book on computer programming or something else, you could read it yourself and be like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, I'm putting it together. I understand how to apply this. And that's the whole point about TechnoTutor, is why we're saying that's the solution, because it gives you that ability to actually process what you're reading and so forth, independent of what the information is. You have now the vocabulary to do that. What were you going to say?
That's also why there's this coping mechanism going on where kids are being shown all these like bright, flashy, gimmicky things
Cartoon
just to hold their
characters.
attention, because they cannot read, because they get that inhibition, because they don't have everything available to them where they can recognize it immediately, effectively, and just keep going without it being a strain or a struggle.
Just because something holds their attention doesn't mean it's actually helping them.
Right.
It's
right.
easy to hold a child's attention.
Yeah.
You just make it bright colors. Like we see this all the time when we take our kids to the grocery store, when, on the rare occasions that we do. If anything is like pink and green and blue and stuff, they're like, oh, what's that? I want that. Like, I'm interested in that. They want to look at it. They want to touch it. They want to see it.
Yeah.
Like it's super easy to get a child's attention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny. It's like parents think that it has to be hard and tough and like a struggle or uncomfortable, or you have to be some kind of expert in order to teach your child to read. But I was just telling you this over the weekend, right, Cam? Of like, I sat down with the family, spent 10 minutes with them, and their little girl wasn't reading. She doesn't know how to read yet. Let's say that, right? But she's at that age where she should be reading, right? And I sat down.
According to the system.
Well, she's 6 years old. She should.
No,
be
I'm just
reading.
saying, according to the system, she should be reading at that
Yeah.
point.
But we sat down and took 10 minutes using TechnoTutor, and she was running to her dad afterwards. And the entire time she's like having a good time. She's like engaged. She's like laughing. Her mom's there, like it almost like, can it really be this simple? And then she runs to her dad and says, Dad, I just learned 3 new words.
That's what's so amazing about it is like, you can't develop reading skill outside of integrating each word
Yeah.
that you're trying to read. All you can do is develop a skill of faking it.
Yeah.
That is possible. It is possible to develop a skill of faking reading where you're not really understanding anything. You're just making the sounds, and some of it you kind of understand because it's things that you're already familiar with. And you can use that process to memorize things enough to repeat the right answers. Like if I teach you, okay, listen, when I say 2 + 2, you say 4. Okay, ready? 2 + 2?
4.
All right, cool. All right, you know math now. Okay, let's go on. And it's like, what is 2? And you're like,
+2 = 4.
+2 = 4.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I said it, right? And then you're
Right.
like, okay, 4 - 2. And you're like,
What the fuck is that?
Didn't learn that
you're
one.
like guessing because they weren't, because the way in which you're being taught is not what is 2. It's like with Max, you can ask him 12 - 8. And even though he hasn't memorized it, he'll be like 4. And you're like, how do you know? And he'll be like, okay, because 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Like he will do that. Now, obviously when it's 2 + 2, he's done it enough where he knows now it's 4. But if you ask him why, he'll tell you because 2 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4. Like he knows why. And he's also learned it enough that he can, without having to think.
Right.
But even in the ones where he hasn't memorized, like to the point where he just can say it without thinking, he can still reason it out because of his vocabulary. He knows what 2 is, what 12 is, he knows what 8 is. He can visualize the number line. And there's a lot of other ways you can look at it.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the difference is like when you have, and I remember you were there in Denver, right, Asif? But I don't remember if you probably remember this too, but I'm specifically thinking of Drake because we spent so much time together. But remember when we were in Denver and Max was with us, right? Katie and I, and Seneca was there too. Mm-hmm. And remember, this was when he was right before he was turning 3, right? Is that right? Yeah. Right before he turned 3. Okay. Because that would have been in the summer when he turned 3. He turned 3 in October of that year. I think it was 2019, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had brought these little cardboard cutouts where I had taken Word,
gas station.
I printed it out and I cut it out and I glued it to pieces of cardboard. And I had a whole bunch, like probably 20 or 30 of these with different words like is, he, she, they, were, are, running, sleeping, watching, and like different words that you could construct sentences.
Yeah.
Where he had, and they weren't the only words he had integrated with TechnoTutor, but it was some of the ones he had integrated. And so I just took a bunch of the ones that I knew he had integrated and I put them on there. So that way anyone else could construct a random sentence out of it and then he could read it. And I just wanted people to see he's not reading like in the context of a book he's seen before where he knows what's coming up next and he's just remembering what it says. He literally, you can put him in any order and there's no book, there's no pictures, it's just words. So if he doesn't know what that word is, he's not going to know what you put. He can read the words. And this was when he was still technically 2.5, but kind of halfway between 2.5 and 3. Right. And so that was the point where he could read these things before that, but that was the point where we got to demonstrate it to you guys since we only saw you, every once in a while. Right. So we wanted to show everybody this point of like, look, this is really what's possible. Seneca is now at that point too, right? Where she can read words. Like we tested her on like the words, Katie tested her on like the words violin and bow, like all her violin vocabulary, which we did, I don't even know, like 6, 7, 8 4 or 5 months before you guys were here. I don't even know, like at least 6 months ago that when we did that vocabulary. I can't really remember exactly when, but it's at least 3, 4, 5 months, something like that.
Yeah.
Point is, she did them in Technotutor one time. Now she can still read the words. No context, not us telling her, okay, these are violin words.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's the word. And she's like, oh yeah, violin. You're like, okay, she can read that word.
Right.
She knows that word. She's recognizing it. And so when you have that level of ability with recognizing a word, then when you put those words together, you can read it. And someone goes, what about comprehension? It's like, well, it's so funny. It's like one of those objections where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How do you know they're comprehending it? I'm like, how do I know they know what a violin is? I mean, they don't necessarily automatically know, but I know they know what a violin is. So if they wrote, I have a violin, how do you know they comprehended that? Do you have a violin, Seneca? Yeah, I do. It's in there. Okay, it sounds like she comprehends what the fuck a violin is.
Right.
So how do they test reading comprehension in school?
With a quiz.
But I mean, like they read something and then they ask them questions. Like, okay,
And usually the
did
package.
Johnny go to the store, the banana, or the ball? And you're like, store? You're like, okay,
No, he
you
went
just
to
said
the
it.
ball. He went to the ball and he wore a dress. You were wrong.
And the thing is, when you do it where it's like you kind of actually have to know what you read, and we've tested people, you guys know what I'm talking about. You see, even most adults, they can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
They didn't really understand what they read. And usually most people just read and they gloss their eyes over it and they try to get to the end and they're like, oh, I actually have to know what I read. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Right. So what's interesting though, is when you have the words integrated, you can read it. And just because you can recognize the word doesn't mean you understand what you're reading. But then the question is, it's a separate point. Do you know what that word means? Like, using Technotutor, we could have a young child, 3, 4 years old, learn a word and not know what the word means. Like they could recognize it. The only reason they wouldn't understand the word is if you didn't tell them what it meant.
Right.
But when they're using it and they're in that natural learning ability state, you just know what. Now, if I did the word defenestrate, and they would be like, okay, what's that word? They could read it. Like, what does it mean? I don't know. Okay. Now, if I tell you, it means to throw something out a window. Okay. Now I know. So if I ever tell you again, now what's the only reason you won't remember? Because you either integrated it using your natural learning ability, or you just tried to memorize it.
Yeah.
And the reason why people have trouble with learning new words like that is because they're not using their natural ability to learn. They're just memorizing. They've spent 12 plus years in school just developing their ability to memorize for a short period of time. And they never developed the ability to learn and know it. That's what we're developing with our kids, is that ability. If you get it one time, doesn't mean it has to be the first time. It just means you get it and you learn it and you know it. So understanding a word's meaning is as simple, like, okay, what's this?
AirPod case.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How do I know you know what those words mean?
Shit, dude. Fuck, maybe I don't.
But now here's the question. Who told you this was an AirPod case?
Apple.
Okay. Like how did you know that? How do you remember that?
Shit.
Because they fucking impulsed it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like over and over so much in advertising, and everybody has them and everyone's talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I was like, something else, like some other thing, you wouldn't necessarily know what it was.
Yeah. Like it's interesting that you say in school, we're practicing basically just memorizing things.
But think about old people.
Yeah.
If I was like, what's this, Grandma? She's like, oh, it's one of them iPods. That's one of isn't that your iPods? And you're like, no, it's not a fucking iPod. It's ear pods. An iPod is something else. Oh yeah, an iPod. That's what you talk on. Like, no, you don't talk on an iPod, Grandma. You talk on an iPhone. A phone? Who's calling on the phone? Like, you're like, oh my God. Because it's like they can't take in new information.
You playing on the Nintendo again?
Yeah, like someone's trying to call me on your Nintendo. And you're like,
Wow,
it's a Super Nintendo, Grandma. But it's like what I'm trying to get at is this point of you're either in memorization, which is a whole nother ballgame, or you're actually learning. And so with the way we're educating our kids with TechnoTutor, they're actually learning the words. So to me, when someone's like, well, how do you know they're comprehending? The only reason that's a problem for people is because you're only trying to memorize the words and you're trying to understand their meaning, but you never integrated the word in itself in the first place. So trying to also learn the meaning is like, you're trying to enjoy the food and you didn't even cook it right. Like you're not going to. That part's not going to happen. But if you do the first part right, the other part is very natural. You don't have to try to enjoy it if you cook the food correctly. You see what I'm trying to say? Like if you cook it correctly, it's like, well, how do I know I'm going to enjoy it? It's like, well, everything is correct. The that part happens naturally. Yeah. So when you're building the children's vocabulary effectively and they're really learning new words, the meanings when you explain it is just other words. So it's like their brain is just automatically connecting all those pieces together. The reason why there's comprehension problems in school is because they're not doing the first part, which is integrating the words in the child's memory structure properly. So then the comprehension, of course, isn't going to be there because they're trying to think, what the fuck does that word say? And by the time they get 3 or 4 words in, all that stuff Drake was saying about the drowsiness, all that stuff is setting in. They're not even remembering what they started at in what the sentence started with. So what they do then is they teach you all these techniques for like, okay, scan the material, read the questions, okay, when you see a question like this, you go here and then you try to get that. And that's, okay, it's going to be one of these. And you're like,
read the questions first and then
understand what it says and answer the questions based on what you read, because they know people can't do that.
Yeah. What were you saying, Asif?
I was just making one of those points of like, you read the questions first and then you read the passage, and the message that this lady left, it's like, it became all about.
Oh, you want to keep reading it?
Test taking techniques. It's basically the main point was that. And she talked a little bit about how it became about how TV, something called Channel One, right? It was owned in part by Pepsi, and it was all about indoctrinating a generation where they'd offer a free TV, or they would give you a free TV, and like play like 5 minutes of free programming or something like that for kids in school and all that. But the main point is just to get that concept of how schools will direct the entire thing around whatever metric they're measuring as, this is what's valuable. This is what we can market as, we're a great school, or we're better than other schools around us, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the practical point for the people listening is like, and for the people not listening,
and those not watching or listening,
yeah, and those people who
are not processing it.
Yeah. So there's people who are not watching or listening. This is especially for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comment below if you're not processing what we're saying.
Imagine all the people like, yeah, I don't understand. When you are going throughout your day and there's no particular point of you didn't sleep for like 24 hours or something, but you get tired, 90% of the time it's because you're not processing something effectively. It's like something in your day you're not willing to face because you don't know how to do it naturally. And when you think about it, you kind of get depressed. I don't mean like a sadness. I mean, you get depressed, like you don't want to do anything, right? And it's like the sense of tiredness where you're thinking about what you need to do and you don't move and you get tired. That tiredness is the exact same thing that Drake was describing of when you're reading, you can't process it, you get tired.
Dude, this is such a good point, because the conservative Republican type people on the quote right, always say some people are just what?
Smart.
Drake knows. Why? There's equal opportunity, but some people will just not ever do it. Why?
Some people are just lazy.
Some people are just lazy.
Yeah. Right. But what you just described is where laziness stems from. People are not naturally lazy. Laziness is like you're bored. You don't know what the fuck to do.
Exactly. Like imagine being a child and like, do you ever see a lazy kid? Like a lazy 1-year-old? No.
Not really, no. Because they just want to run around and play.
Exactly. Because they're in a creative mode. They just want to explore and learn and all that stuff.
Now, you want to see a lazy 1-year-old, put them in front of a TV all day.
Right. Exactly. And then when they're 9, when they're 12, the parents like, I don't know. I just can't get them off the fucking. It's like, yeah.
Line your kid up for esports.
Right, exactly.
You know,
They'll
what's
love it.
crazy is like parents will, this is usually when they're overwhelmed with however many kids they have or whatever, but they will put their kid in front of the TV and they're just like, look at how well behaved they are. They just love this show. And they think like the show
This
is
is
like
his
a
favorite show.
like an
Yeah.
educational or whatever. And they're like,
It's
I
like
don't know
that's
why.
every kid's favorite show because it's designed to just capture their attention and make them
Exactly. And your kid is literally rotting away before your eyes.
Paw Patrol.
Paw
Every
Patrol's-
fucking kid loves Paw Patrol.
That's a good one.
And maybe
It's a
not
great
every
show.
kid, but like I just know like I started seeing it in my cousin. I'm like, oh, he really likes this show. And then I started seeing it literally everywhere. Right. And so
I don't know what sound you were talking about, Jake.
I don't hear no sound.
I didn't hear any. I don't hear it.
Okay, great.
Oh, you're talking about that background noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Um,
Oh, but hold on
the,
real quick. My kids, if you showed them Paw Patrol, they'd be like, "Oh, what's that? Look at that dog." Or I'm assuming it's a dog, right? They would just be like, "What is?" They'd be like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out, like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, I don't mean like
I know you know that. I'm
Dog.
just telling people.
it's not a
like, you
dog.
don't
It's like
have-
it, you know, like pussy ass wet. It's like WAP, but just backwards.
but that's basically it. WAP.
I got
It's
you,
basically
Drakey.
Paw Patrol for
You like
adults.
that one, Drakey?
Because it's so funny. It's so
Basically,
stupid.
Paw Patrol for adults.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like,
and the-
like how did you like?
That's the point, though. You put a woman doing
don't
all
know
that
that.
stuff in front of a bunch of men, they're gonna be like, "You
Right.
didn't invent something special."
Hypnotized,
It's like-
right? And you know the funny thing is like she was there's a video of her doing like a TikTok or whatever, and she was like in her kitchen, dancing to Wet Ass Pussy, like her own
Oh,
song.
where her daughter comes in. I
Her
saw
daughter comes in and she doesn't want her daughter to see her doing that.
that. Right.
She's like, "Oh,
She
turn it
knows.
off."
Right.
It's like, what? So you want everybody else to be watching you do that,
No, but
including
what they'll
13-year-old
say-
girls, 9-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls? You don't give a fuck.
But I heard this argument though, because she was having a back and forth with Candace Owens, and she was like, "No one's forcing your kids to watch me. You're just a bad parent if you let your kids watch what I'm doing."
Savage. I mean,
And then she's like, "No one has to watch me. Change the channel." Really?
That's
Like,
actually
is that really the case? Like, is that actually how she really thinks? Or when there comes to a business deal, if she can get her shit into McDonald's or into Target in the kids section, she's gonna not do it?
she's totally gonna do it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So they're like, "Oh, you don't have to watch. You don't have to pay attention to it." It's like, is that really the case?
But I actually like that argument though. I like the argument because it puts the responsibility back on the parents. Like, what are you
It's like
exposing?
anybody,
But can the
anybody
parents take
particularly,
responsibility for it actually?
Well, I
Whatever
mean,
that-
they're not educated.
if like, okay, but you're not letting your kids go down that aisle, right?
No, I'm not. No.
Exactly. So like, it's the same way. Like right now, I heard.
But hold on. But what I'm saying is, what's her name? Cardi B. Her whole thing is dependent upon millions of people being addicted to her.
Yes. No, I
Would
agree.
she actually want people to not do that?
No, of course. It's just like these OnlyFans women who are like, all men are dogs. And like, I wish men would like clean up their act. They would run out of business. You know, I get that.
Because then well, anyways, it's a whole other topic. But my point is, she's actually participating in systems that impulse people to become addicted to
Cameron.
those things.
You
Yeah.
know, on the parenting call, it was a really great call, by the way. It was really good. And one of the things you were mentioning, which we all know, is like we're in the consequences of what we've accepted and allowed, where
Yeah.
now we have to face certain things that it's you
Right.
will have to go through some negative consequences that will set us back a little bit. Because if you think about it, at the point of where we're at now, if men actually quote unquote clean up their act, there's going to be a bunch of women who can't provide for themselves because they were participating in the consequences of being addicted to a bunch of bullshit and having no self-direction. For a bunch of people-
Oh, I see what you're saying.
See what I'm
Meaning,
saying?
like, if men stood up and quit being dogs and all that stuff, like Cardi B doesn't have a job anymore
exactly. All these women who are like banking on OnlyFans and like providing for their rent and all that stuff.
because they say it's female empowerment,
Fuck.
but how many females are actually giving a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, she's not making WAP for females.
Also,
Oh yeah.
like, it's not like every female is banking. You know, it's like there's
I know,
Right,
that's a total
exactly.
myth.
it's a very small percentage of women who are doing very, very well, you know, on the platform. And then everyone else is just like making a few bucks here and there,
just making a quote living, and they're calling that independence. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, no. And then after a few years, no one's going to care about that person because looks fade, or
Yeah.
or they'll have to do more extreme stuff to keep the fans and so forth, right? And the way those systems work, it's always goes to a few people
I saw this
because
I
it's
saw
based
this-
on energy, and he who has gets more. It's just that's the way it works.
I saw this clip, and it was like this lady who like obviously had Botox, obviously had plastic surgery. I think it was a filter though. You know, like there was for a little while, there was a filter that you could put on that made it look like you had plastic surgery.
Wow.
Right.
Amazing.
And,
Test it out. Get a little test run before.
Yeah. But this woman, it was in Spanish. It is so funny because she's like sitting there and saying, everybody always asks me, how am I so beautiful? What do I do and everything? And I just say, it's natural. It's just, I just was born this way, and like, it's funny because you can obviously tell, like, no, you clearly had plastic surgery,
Oh, I see.
But
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up.
No. But that's kind of true. It's like we have all these. It's like, imagine you're showing how amazing you are because you have all this wealth and you have these looks and all this stuff when literally you did not create it.
Yeah.
And then you're actually thinking you're better than other people. Even people who are like, look, I take care of my body. I'm fit. Okay. If you're a fat, lazy slob, I mean, you just need to get your shit together. There is truth in that statement. However, if the person had the same education and the same understanding you had, would they still choose that? So the problem is we'll not realize we're in a position where we have a different vocabulary, and that's what allows us to even think this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking everyone, but no, it's me. I'm just an amazing being, and within myself, I'm amazing. That's why I have what I have. When it's like, no, you've applied knowledge that you have. And this person doesn't have that knowledge or that understanding, or they have maybe belief systems, or maybe this woman is overweight because she was raped and she's putting on weight subconsciously to protect herself from being attractive to men or whatever it is. And then you're assuming it's just because she doesn't want to work hard or something like that. It's the same thing. I see this argument on the side of the right, like we talked about, where, well, some people are just lazy. And it's like, so you're saying an entire race of people, because on average, the problem with illiteracy is a Black problem, yeah?
Yeah.
In America.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all just so lazy. They don't want to learn to read. That's what it is, right? It's like, that's clearly not the problem. And what's fascinating though, is if you say, well, the problem is to educate those kids. Now we have what you were saying earlier, Drake, which is nobody wants to actually solve that problem, it seems like.
Right.
Even on the other side.
Right.
So you have this people saying, oh, it's just laziness. And over here, they're saying, no, that's racist, but also we don't need to educate them. And we just need more money for the schools. Like, we need more money for schools that are just going to train children to take tests to get jobs that aren't going to exist.
Like, how many people?
Any jobs, but they're not going to be those kind of jobs.
We need
Most
more
people-
money for schools who all the teachers don't want to come into work and don't actually want to teach our kids. That's what we need money for.
And it's like,
Why do they really want the kids in the schools?
So they can
Money?
indoctrinate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, more money.
So they can teach
The
them all the
individual
next level of fucking brainwashing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
On
all
the
it's
more
really about.
group level, yeah.
It's the same thing that what was that the Hollywood executive that had leaked all those the email from like MGM or wherever it was, right? But like not executive, but like someone within Hollywood who's part of these studios and leaking the information about
the point system.
the point system.
Oh
All that.
yeah.
Right.
Like
Like
how they
If
decide
it's a
on
Black
what goes into
person, then you get
production.
more points. If it's a Black
Right.
trans woman, then you have a higher
like
chance
the
of getting-
stories that will get approved for
Right.
production.
And then there was like also the subtleness of like,
They're incentivizing just leaving white males who are heterosexual out of the picture. It's like there's just no reason to put them in the story. I don't get any extra points for it, so leave it out.
But
And then
they-
everyone's like, "See, look, our society's changing." It's like, no, it's not. You're just engineering it.
yeah, but they were making this point. Somebody was making this point of like in Hollywood, it is known you put in this joke or you put in these points, and in a kids movie, but it's not for kids.
Mhm.
As in, it's not just for the adults who go see the movie to have a laugh. It's to start putting that idea within the kids. And at this stage, it goes over their head. They're not even understanding what's being said. But you get so many of those throughout their lifetime, throughout the movies, throughout the TV shows, the songs, whatever it is, so that by the time they become adults, they automatically accept whatever it is, the premise that you want to start giving them.
This is something that you guys will have to face as parents.
Yeah. Not
also
only that,
within yourself.
Not only that, it's like this entire next generation, they're going to be primed.
What I'm saying though is you individually have to face it, because like this is something that everybody has, a lot of people have within them. It's like you did it earlier, Asif. I don't know if you realize it. You'll say jokes to kids, not realizing that they don't have the context for it. And so it's actually like creating a point of confusion within them or programming with something. And no, usually people are not doing it on purpose. It's just something you have to realize so you can prepare yourself for when you have kids. It's like, it's not something that's obvious to us, but it's the same expression, which is like, oh, you put these things in there. And then what happens is it actually creates that in the child. Like we had someone come over, I think I talked about this before, where we were outside talking about something, and I forget what the whole context was, but they made a joke about something burning
Candles?
down. Huh?
Yeah, the candles.
The candles like catching the house on fire, right?
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
just
yeah.
making a joke about it, which like amongst us, like maybe that particularly isn't funny or something, but it would just be like a joke or something. And maybe there was a context where it was funny or made sense or whatever. But to the child, they're like, wait, these candles that I'm interested in, that I'm playing with, you're saying it's going to burn the house down? And now that's also considering the context that we've explained to them, hey, why you don't want to just walk around and drop a candle on the carpet. Like they understand all that. But now it's like this point that an adult said that they're going to assume has more understanding is saying like, oh, be careful, that'll burn the house down. They're like, wait, what? Wait, just out here, we're out in the concrete that's going to burn the house. And then suddenly they're afraid, or they have all these things going through them. Right. So that adults do this all the time. Like if you're at the grocery store and somebody comes up to the kids and they're like, oh, look at her blue eyes. Wow, she's gonna have to fight those boys off. And you're like, okay, my daughter's 2 years old. Like, what are you programming them with? You know, or like when you talk about the boys, like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, I'm gonna eat you up, you little sexy boy. Or, well, maybe I would say it's sexy. Right?
But then you're gonna be a little heartbreaker.
But you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, like you're
Right.
gonna be a little heartbreaker. Oh, your mommy better not let go of you. Like they don't understand how the child is processing that.
Yeah, they're not
It's
doing it
a
on purpose.
whole nother thing.
Yeah.
The adults understand, like it's not even acceptable anyways, but I'm just saying,
Right.
if it was just adults, like we understand what we're talking about, but the children don't, like they don't realize like it's like the system is speaking through them in that. Because if you were to question the person, they would get very defensive because they didn't know why they said it.
Right.
Generally speaking, they don't mean to say it.
I was just saying he was cute.
I was just trying to be, it's like, it's like, I know that.
Yeah.
I know why they're doing it, but they won't understand that they're just allowing a system to speak through them, not realizing they just never took responsibility for it.
Wow.
Right? There was a really great blog that Bernard has talking about this point specifically about it was something about the mother always telling the boy something. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Drake? Where it's like something about always telling him, oh man, I can't remember what it was.
It was a blog.
Yeah, I think it's one of the blogs, if I'm not mistaken, but it was specifically this point about, I forget what the point was, but it develops into the point where the boy grows up and is more of like a playboy and manipulates women.
Oh
and so forth.
yeah.
But it was because of something the mother was always saying to the child.
Yeah.
It was something along the lines of like, I'm trying to remember what it was. It's obvious when you look at the point, but the point is, it was a point where it's like the parent is saying something to the child, thinking that it's something that they have a certain starting point, but not realizing what the actual starting point of what they're saying is and how that creates problems later on for the child.
It was
something about, it wasn't being a heartbreaker. It was something about,
no, it was like something like they're not good enough for you or something like that, or because it creates the point within the boy where it's like he's always searching for more or better or something that is like nothing ever meets his standards, essentially.
Yeah, it was something about the mother being so like specific about how, yeah, like handsome or special or something. The child,
Yeah.
I forget what it was specifically, but for those who are going through the blogs, you'll see it. But the particular point is not that important when you read it. It helps you see it from a bigger perspective, like how all points you're dealing with can create these unexpected consequences because you didn't really consider the point behind what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. But it was a really cool point. And so it's like always looking at stuff like that. Like when somebody says, like, to like your daughter, like, oh, you have such beautiful blue eyes. Like, oh, the boys are just going to love her. Or usually people won't say it about a girl, but they'll say it about the boy.
Yeah. Because it's kind of
But
weird.
it's like
to
you're
say
actually
about a girl.
programming that kid to, it's like, what about kids who have brown eyes?
Well, you know,
Like, have you ever had someone come up to your kid and be like, wow, what beautiful brown eyes?
the first time I saw you, Cam, I was like, man, you're gonna have to beat him off with a stick.
I've never seen anyone get beaten off with a stick. But not saying I'm not willing to try it.
I was saying someone would have to beat you off with a stick because who would get near you?
Still, yeah. But my point is, like, you see this with people, like they come to your kid and they're like, oh, because our kids both have blue eyes, right? So it's like, wow, what beautiful eyes. And it's like, why do you need to make a comment about my child having beautiful eyes? Like, what was the purpose of that?
Yeah.
So imagine now my child hears that 10 times a day. They're going to start to see like, hey, my eyes are special. I can use my eyes for something, to get attention from people or to manipulate people, or it's something about me. You see what I'm saying? Like creating this point that's not clear, it's not directive. So we have to explain to the kids like, hey, your eyes are a certain color. That's not really that common, or, whatever. And then people are attracted to that because in our society, we live in a competitive society where things that are unique or striking color-wise can give you an, so we have to explain all this context to our 2-year-old. And like, I just keep going until it's like, does that make sense? Or, like, what do you think? Like asking them questions like, what do you mean by that? And it's like, okay, now I have to explain this. I have to explain this. Now I have to explain that. Why are people competitive? What do you mean? Oh, because not everyone has enough money. Why don't everyone have enough money? Oh, because not everyone has a proper education. Why don't they have an education? Because our system isn't designed that way. That's why we're doing Technotutor. That's why we're doing everything we're doing, is to support them to be like that. So we're telling the kids, we're not going to accept this, but this is the way it is. But that's why everything we're doing, what we're doing, so we can support people to not have to do that. So we're always like, every conversation with our kids, bringing it back to these points over and over and over. That's how our kids are going to grow up understanding things versus what do most other people do. I mean, I don't even know. They would just be like, oh, thank you so much. So then now you realize like, oh, my eyes make my parents happy. You see what I mean? Like, and the parent doesn't explain anything and just creates this whole pattern within the child. Like I grew up, my mom constantly telling me how beautiful I was. And I used to have long blonde hair, right? I used to have like these real blue eyes and everything. And people would always tell me how beautiful I was and everything. And my mom would always tell me that. And so I grew up with this sort of like, obsessive focus on how I looked. Now I know I don't seem like that now because I literally don't have any focus anymore. I mean, I trim my beard, I cut my hair, right? Like I do certain basic things. Okay. But I'm saying I don't have an obsessive focus anymore on, I need to look and appear attractive to other people. I used to have that. Right. And so it was like, it became a point where it was a point of specialness for me. Like I'm attractive, but then you wouldn't develop other things. You see what I'm saying? So you would then use that to like manipulate people and so forth, or expect certain things. And everyone's doing this in some way. Like maybe some people don't have the attractiveness point, but they have something else or whatever it is. And then everyone's using these points to compete with each other and no one's directing this. And now we want to talk about, oh, we live in a racist society. And it's like, it doesn't just stop there. Do you know what I mean? It's like in every single thing we do. So one of the other problems with the racism point being this at the forefront is what's cool about it is it's getting everyone to think about, hey, there's problems in our fucking world. and there is inequality, and some people don't feel equal, and they're not equal to the system. What's going on here? We need to address this. But what's not cool about it is it's immediately being subverted to actually reduce the level of competition to the top, because it's just pitting everybody against each other. You see what I'm saying? It's turning everybody into, oh yeah, we just need to solve racism, but you can't solve it because it's inherent. So we just need to keep fighting about it. So there's no solution in it. So it only weakens everybody. And it allows a country like China, who is all one race, basically, who doesn't care about anybody else. Like they say their purpose is the Chinese people's happiness. It didn't say world prosperity. Their opinion would be, hey, if everybody's happy in the world, that means we'll be happy. They'll say that. What I'm saying is their purpose is Chinese people's happiness. It's not about anything else. And so over here, we'll say like, oh, America is terrible and all this stuff, and it's all racist and all that. But you can't say that in China. If you said in China that they're racist and you're in China, you would, I mean, I don't even know what would happen to you. You know what I'm saying? Like it wouldn't be allowed. It wouldn't be accepted. So now they're using the point of, it's like the fact that we have the ability to speak and say things that are against what the government wants or whoever's in power wants, that we have that quote right, they're using it to subvert it, so that we'll actually be accepting of a culture and a system where you're only told what you're told all the time, what you can or can't do or can or can't say. And at the end of the day, what I'm telling you guys is that, you probably know this, but like the Chinese government doesn't care about anybody but the Chinese people. Like they will use that as a way to keep themselves in power, because they're just like anybody else in this world. They have no actual principles. You see what I'm saying? It's not about the Chinese people are evil or the Chinese party is evil. It's just that they're just like anybody else in the system, competing. And this is the next level of competition. But unfortunately, we have the technology now to put things in place so it's like almost impossible to reverse it. But we also have the technology to put things in place to have everybody have what they need and do it in a way where with proper education, we can have a really cool society and a really cool experience on Earth. You know what I mean? But at the moment, because there's so much people going towards like, oh, all these bullshit solutions that aren't real, not taking real responsibility for educating everyone, it's paving the way for autocratic, totalitarian control of society through technology. Do you see what I mean? This whole thing with the pandemic has been really interesting because it's really pushed people to the point of accepting technology at a whole nother level in our lives. It's like technology is the solution to everything. That's what people are starting to think, not realizing it doesn't change human nature. The use of it, the application of it is just a reflection of human nature. That's what has to change. You see what I mean about the parenting point? Like as parents, you guys are going to have to look at that point to realize, like, because now that you have these principles, you'll see it even more when you do have kids. You'll be like, holy shit, everything's trying to brainwash my kid to be stupid and retarded and like just addicted to energy and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And you'll suddenly realize like, oh fuck, like I got to change this world.
Yeah.
Because what everybody else will do is go, we can't change the world, so I don't want to have kids. I'll just be miserable till I die. That's what a lot of people will do.
And you know what? Honestly, where they're at right now, they're making a good choice because they would fuck up those kids, right? Because they don't know how to change. It is a good choice.
You know, I was having this conversation with Katie, but the problem is, and I agree with you,
yeah,
but we know people can change.
Yeah.
Our responsibility to sell them on that and to show them that you can change and then have kids now that you're seeing you can do it.
100% agree. Yeah.
Because if we don't, the only people that are going to be having kids are Chinese people who are in China, who are totally going to just obey the system. And honestly, do I think that that can last? No, I don't think it, like eventually there's going to be cracks, like because there's no form of control that can actually contain life. So, right. But it's just going to be worse consequences if it gets to that point to where it's like everything's under total control and then people are still rising up. Like it's just going to be like a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we have to stand up before then. And all we're saying is like, start with yourself, walk your process, get back to principles, have children, educate them effectively, take full responsibility for that, so that those kids can be effective and stable in this world and actually stand for things that are best, rather than just going along with whoever is the apparent authority.
Yeah.
The reason that everybody misses that is so fundamental into everything, like when we're communicating with somebody, when we're thinking about ourselves, if we're fearful of not having enough money or not being effective enough in a group or whatever it is, it's often the starting point of not being able to change.
Right.
Which is a result, that belief is actually a result of the physiological state of, in the most simple terms, for example, it's a physiological effect in your brain where your brain no longer has neuroplasticity. It's no longer able to change and adapt to whatever is coming towards it in terms of you being able to learn. Where the way I'm using the word learn is to change.
Yeah.
Right. And so what you have is a generation, every single generation of anybody who's ever went to school, at least from since I've been going to school and prior to that, it's like, hey, how did you choose what you wanted to go to university for? How did you choose your career path? It's like, oh, I was good at chemistry.
Yeah.
I was good in science class.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you know you're good at it?
Right. Exactly.
It's like,
right?
how do you know you're going to be a good chemist because you got an A in chemistry class because you memorized the shit you were told to memorize? Like, it's just like the stupidest way of deciding what you're good at.
So the metrics are fucked, first of all, right? Because like Cameron was saying, it's like what you have to do to be successful in high school is not what you have to do to be successful in the workplace.
It's not what you have to do to be successful in the real world. Yeah.
It's not what you have to do to be successful to create financial freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Definitely not that.
But you are learning certain things, such as obedience, don't question things, go along with it, don't think for yourself, which makes you the perfect worker. It's all the other things that you're
somebody might say that makes you good at the workplace, but you'll never be the fucking vice president by doing that.
Whoa, what does
You
it
know what I
mean?
mean?
You know what? You remember how we were talking? Well, we've mentioned this before about how what do the elites call the average person? They call them consumers.
Yeah.
Right. Another way that the elites call the average person, they call them the workforce.
Yeah.
How many people are in the workforce?
Yes.
How many women are in the workforce? They're
That's
not
like
talking
the
about the
frontline
CEOs.
workers is great propaganda, isn't it?
Oh my God. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's so funny. There was they have these YouTube shorts now, right? And it's like, like Facebook stories, except on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
And there's like these military ones. And there's this girl going around to like each of the soldiers. Like, hey Pete, why'd you join the military? Because my life fucking sucked. Like they're all kind of being facetious, but not really. You know what I mean?
Actually telling the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, why'd you join the military? Yeah. Or, hey, Steve-O, why'd you join the military? He's like, 'cause I needed money. Like different things like that. It's like, that's actually the fucking reality. One guy was like, they're like, hey, Rich, why'd you join the military? To stand up for my country. She's like, fucking loser. He's like, and he laughed and he was like, And
Yeah,
then-
like that's what they tell you why.
Right.
and he was making a joke about it, like the way he said it, right?
Oh, let's piss off everybody. We should have done this on Memorial Day.
Damn, we're a week late.
Yeah, because I don't know what they had it in Canada, but we had it here in the US, right?
November.
Memorial Day, right? So everyone pretends like troops are brave and all this stuff. And it's like,
That's
there is
November.
a certain degree where how can I explain it?
Does it require courage to face gunfire? Yes.
Yes. And
Does it require courage to fight somebody? Yeah.
but that's not why people actually go into the military. And also the problem
know.
with it is
You would know.
the problem with it is
Why did you join the Air Force? Why are you en route to joining the Air Force?
100% because I wanted to be elite, and the Air Force Academy was an elite university, and I was like, that's elite. It had nothing
Exactly.
to do with serving or being brave or
And you weren't directing yourself. Somebody said, hey, this purpose will give you what you want, that idea of yourself.
yeah. And you know what's weird is 9/11 happened when I was in high school. And right before that, the summer before 9/11 happened, was the movie Pearl Harbor, which got me hyped up on the military and planes and pilots and all that shit. And then 9/11 happened. And honestly, 9/11 wasn't a conscious part of my decision process, but I know it was a part of that, even though it wasn't consciously there.
0.5.
So I really think that George Bush did 9/11 in order to get me to go into this path. It was like his kind of way of the elite. I'm telling you, the elite have weird ways of recruiting people.
Yeah. Did you guys not see that patent or that thing that was released about the PSYOP from CIA that George Bush was talking to Cameron Cope?
Yeah. It was all about getting me into the elite universities so that
I knew I was a genius.
So that I could leave there. And then
I was supposed to be the next Einstein to build a nuclear bomb. I was going to build the next version of that. They wanted.
It's funny. It's funny. I've been watching Owen Benjamin. Like he'll release like some clips from his streams, and he was reading what some journalists were saying about him, because they've been putting out this, they've been hating on him since forever, right? But they've been putting out this story recently about how now that he has all this land, he's trying to use it to make a paramilitary, and like he's inviting all of his friends to come shooting.
They're trying to make it like he's gonna make some kind of cult compound or something.
Exactly, which is like obviously like if you actually watch him, it's like that's obviously not what's going on.
Like he's creating like a militia, right?
Right, and like
that's what they're trying to make it like.
Yeah. And it's funny because he's reading it off, and what they decided to do was like select certain parts of his videos and say in one video he he shows just how mean of a person he is, where an old man apparently told him to wear a mask and he called them a pervert.
I remember that video. He did that.
Yeah. It's so funny because they're like reading like his obvious jokes,
Yeah, where he was like, masks are for criminals and perverts. Which one are you?
Right, exactly.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And he's like, this is a great joke. And they wrote it. Like, look, they wrote my joke in the paper. And like, he's just enjoying it. But it's so funny because they're like trying to take him out of context and like use all these little things that he said as a way to show like, oh, you shouldn't listen to this guy. This guy's crazy. I don't know who would actually read that and think that, who's actually interested in Owen Benjamin.
Won't, but it'll impulse them with the point of this guy's crazy, he's a cult person or whatever it is. So that way less people
see him, you're
like if your friend starts watching Owen Benjamin, you'll be like, oh dude, wait, no, you're into that thing. Oh, you shouldn't be into that. Like we've all experienced this.
Yeah. I was just bringing it up because you like you went really good on that schizophrenia point right there. You're just like, no, George Bush is recruiting me.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be like clipping that. Somebody's gonna clip it out. Oh, I can't wait for that day.
But can you see like there's the whenever you don't actually align yourself with what is here, like the way things actually work, it's going to create a shit circumstance. So then you have all these people being programmed. Their software is being programmed, right? It's not like somebody said, let me be too personal of an example, but the point is like people are experiencing all this conflict and they think that that's the way it is, not realizing they just got programmed that way. So one example of that is like the laziness. People are just lazy. It's like, no, they just weren't educated, right? Because if you look at a child, they're never really lazy unless you program them with a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. But when they want to learn, they're always moving. They're always producing, creating, learning, touching, feeling, always moving. They're not just, you never see a 2-year-old that's like on the couch with chips and is like, I just don't want to do anything today. Like,
I just want to watch the game.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Right. It doesn't make any sense.
The only reason that will happen is because they're in an environment where there's just nothing for them. And so they just start to develop that character because that's how they survive.
Yeah.
And that's being impulse to them.
Right. But that's your point, is like you're creating that. It's not a natural thing in any way whatsoever.
Yeah. Right.
Drake,
so, okay. What about these people who, because I've been noticing there are a lot of people, like, especially like in the spiritual community, right, who they claim they want to do all these great things, but then at the same time, they want to be special. They want to have their own thing. But even if you show them really clearly, like, and I guess this may have to do with that persuasion point of like, they don't think the same way that, maybe I think, let's say, right? But you show them really clearly from, let's say, potentially from their starting point of why, they don't need to continue learning all these different spiritual things that they're trying to learn to heal people or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And yet they still want to continue down that route.
I know
Because
why.
the way, okay, go ahead. Well, hang on, wait.
Well, yeah.
I'll tell you the way I see it,
Mhm.
and then you can give me your perspective. But the way I see it is they don't actually want to take the responsibility. Like, they are afraid of taking that responsibility, afraid of actually doing something. And so that they continue going down this route of like, I'm special, I have to learn all these other things, I have to continue learning, then they don't actually have to do anything with it. But what's your perspective?
Well, it's that, but a little bit taking it a little bit further, which is they actually don't care about helping anybody.
Oh, okay.
They're actually just greedy. Like I'm speaking for, I know for myself, like when I would go into that direction, I was still looking for how can I be happy and thinking
Yeah.
that these were the ways to get that. Okay, so I have to like be some kind of good person or something, like, so somebody might say, oh, but that's what you're doing right now, isn't it? Aren't you saying you want to change the world and do all this stuff? Yes, I am saying that. And that is genuine. But the only reason it's genuine is because we actually know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not because I inherently am a better person than anyone else and I just deep down care so much about humanity any more than anybody else. It's that I realize the only way to get any of the things that I want, which is true happiness, is to also change the system so that everybody has what they need. And like we explained a million times, and the way we're suggesting it actually will work. It actually does work, and it will work long-term if you understand it. Versus the spiritual type person, the thing that they're thinking is the answer is just a bunch of bullshit that will never work.
Right.
It's like thinking I can, what's an example? It's like thinking you can put toast in a toaster and not plug it in and it's going to get toast out of it. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. It's not plugged in. There's no electricity.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say? It's a mechanical, physical thing. It's not going to work. So like what we're saying, how do we change the world? Well, if everybody has an effective education, what is an effective education? Every word that you know, that you actually understand it, that you can process it, that you can read a book and you understand the words, you can apply it then.
I think it was
knowledge
on
without application is not knowledge. The only reason you're saying that is because you're used to school where you memorize shit. I don't have to say, well, but you also have to apply it. You actually understand it and the context is relevant, you'll apply it. That's why like I can get a book and I can read a few pages and be like, I see how this connects. I see what to do with it. Cool.
Man, that makes so
I don't
much
even need
sense.
to read the whole thing. Like it,
Yeah.
it just depends if I'm like, oh, but what else is there in here? It depends on the context.
Yeah.
So you can get something really out of a book, but you apply, and maybe I don't need to apply it yet. So I'll read a book. I'm like, that was interesting. And then years later, I'm in a situation where I'm like, that information activates, but because I could actually process it. So I actually understood it. I just didn't have anything to do with it at the time, maybe because it wasn't necessary. Well, what were you going to say, Yasser?
I forgot.
Good. That was my goal.
Don't
Talking
ever
until you forgot.
fucking talk again.
But do you see the point though? Is with the spiritual side.
I remember.
Go for it.
So it's like the
Nope. Shut up.
I forgot now. There's two people I was talking to relatively recently, but one of them was a spiritual person. They had their spiritual awakening.
What does that
opened up
mean,
their-
by the way, when people say that from your perspective?
I know specifically what it means. They took drugs
Oh,
and they saw shit that they'd never seen before. And
because I was going to say, I've never had a spiritual awakening, but then when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah, I've definitely had a spirit.
Because I was like, I don't know what that means. I've never had that, but I mean, but honestly, I don't
categorically,
categorically,
it has been that though.
I'm not trying to sidetrack your point. I want to hear it.
Yeah,
There.
no
I just want to add, like, but my spiritual awakening was not the glorious light. It was more like
fuck.
Fuck.
Like we're
oh,
really
fuck,
fucked.
I'm fucked. Everything is fucked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a good thing. It wasn't until it just made me keep searching until the point where I saw Destiny. And I was like, oh, fucking common sense, like change everything. Okay. Like, because what do most people's spiritual awakenings do, and maybe I'll get to this, is like it just makes you accept things as they are, basically. Right. But what were you gonna say about your
It was like this person who was like, so they had their
what was that? Oh, I thought you were like
they're
so
spiritually
thirsty.
awakened, right? Yeah. But they had that awakening, all that stuff, but they were the most self-centered person. They were like, yeah, how do we change this world? And they were like, but I'm having this problem where I just don't give a fuck when people talk. Like if the conversation's not on me, I don't care. I'm like, this is the reality. And this has been happening time and time and time again. That person was honest enough that where they were willing to open up was the first time I was talking to them. But it was like,
oh wait, so they had this whole spiritual thing, but they're like, but actually I just don't give a fuck.
they're not, they don't see, it's like we talked for hours, like 2 times over hours. And then when I was like, you're evil.
It's like, so what did this awakening do for you exactly?
They're like, I felt free. I felt it was.
It's like, sounds like he just took ecstasy. I mean,
if you are in a position where you are looking to influence people to do what is best for themselves, you start seeing the limitations of people who can see to a degree what you're saying will actually benefit them. But because they've already decided how their life is going to go, again, coming back to that point of I can't change, it's like they will create these beliefs about why it won't work for them.
Yeah.
Right. And they won't be able to break out of their own belief system of, yeah, but that's just not how things work. Even though I know nothing in my life is working, what you're saying, even though things in your life are pretty obviously working and you're clear and you're certain about what you're talking about and you're really expanding me, I just don't agree. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you disagree with? I can't tell you how many times people are like, listen, like, I think we just see it differently. I'm like, I don't think we see it differently. What do you disagree with? Nothing. They just don't actually want to do the thing.
Yeah.
It's like we agree on the fundamentals of how things work, right? And I'm like, therefore, this would make sense, right? They're like, yeah, 100%. And I know I'm speaking very theoretically, but like the practicality, this is one of the things I actually wanted to bring up was, I think it was on the Thursday call or some call that we had, Cameron was making this point of, our internals are reflect, the external or this reality or society, right, is a reflection of what's going on inside of us, but it's not some fucking magical, whatever's inside of you like vibrates everything and then it just creates the world. It's not some kind of simulation bullshit. It's like you literally have to go and express yourself. You have to go interact with things, and based off what you're programmed with, that will determine how you interact or communicate with things. And that is the mechanism in which you'll change the external world. But in our minds, it's like, oh yeah, the external is a reflection of the internal. And we think if we just, that was the point that we were talking about. If you just change the internal, you can't expect the external to change, right?
Yeah.
But somebody had misquoted it and they said, if you change the internal, you can't expect the external to change. Something like that, right?
Or yeah, it was like, when you change the internal, don't expect the outside to change right away. When in actuality, this is a thing from Bernard, what he was saying.
So wait, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is you can just keep saying, oh, I'm focusing on my internal. And if I do it long enough, then eventually the external.
Yeah. And you're just having faith. Eventually it'll have some magical effect. And it's like, but you're not really measuring how it's having an effect. And I mean, if you actually can measure, like changing this and it's changing here, then that's fine. But that would kind of go against the whole point of the misinterpretation anyways. But so a person can say, well, I'm, and to be honest, people who listen to Bernard could fall into this trap, right? Which is like, well, if I just do the things Bernard said or do Destiny or whatever, or I mean, you could apply it to anything. It's the religious dogmatic fallacy. right? Which is like, if I just do this long enough because someone said so, then it'll eventually happen. And it's like, well, that's not really common sense though.
That's what people think do the right things long enough consistently means.
Right. Because Kevin said, if I just do it wrong, so it doesn't matter if I'm seeing results or not.
Right.
And it's like, well, so here's the trick. And we can apply that. This is more obvious when it's in sales. And this is why I suggest always sales is a way to quantify if you're a destiny person.
Like the point.
If you're studying destiny, it's a way of quantifying whether you're actually making progress in your process. What were you going to say?
Because the context I give on that specific point is like, okay, if you're in a job that is not actually a reflection of your merit, like how hard you're working or how effective your communication is or anything like that, what would you be looking at to measure? Oh wow, like I'm walking my process and I'm more stable, I'm less reactionary, I can communicate better, I know how to slow down, I know how to breathe. Even if you've actually improved as an individual, if you're just working a job that's not based in any kind of merit or personal development, you're not going to see the reflection of that anywhere. So if you have,
you might see some reflection, like my neighbors don't fight with me anymore, and that's great. Like, that's not to diminish that, but that's not going to change the system.
But
it's like, well, maybe if my neighbors, they'll wonder why I don't fight with them anymore, and then they'll want to do the process too. And it's like, maybe
people don't really care about
that.
But
you could just tell them, like, hey, you know why we have such a good relationship? It's because I'm doing this, and you check it out. And they can be like, oh, that sounds like a cult, and then you'll be like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have told him, like, or I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. And I think that's what will hold people back from selling people on it,
Well, of course, there's that big point of the fear of rejection and all that, but it's such a specific skill with communication, right? You're always going to get real-time feedback. You're always going to get feedback directly. You don't get feedback if you're, I don't know, typing up some memo for some email. It's like everyone's always trying to save face and play nice and all that stuff.
Like if you're in a corporate world, it's like you can basically be an evil motherfucker and play the game, and you can go up the corporate ladder. It's not really an effective measurement of anything.
You can have mediocre communication skills or fantastic communication skills, but if you work for the government, you're not getting paid anymore.
Yeah, you can be in the government and have terrible communication skills and still, Joe Biden mumbles his way through every speech.
Right, exactly.
It's a perfect example.
So
you can be Trump and have the best words, believe me.
That was good. That was really good.
Thank you.
So that's the point of the value of getting into something like sales or having your own business. It's like that will be the measurement of which you can see how much you're improving, because you're actually doing something that is going to be a reflection and like a real practical reflection.
Hold on, but ask if you could go get a sales job in the real world and not sell anything based on principle and still be evil, and that doesn't prove anything.
The truth is that will show that you're getting more effective in your communication.
True.
But what's going to happen is you're whatever you're looking for from getting that job, you're not going to get. Because
so how do you know? But here's my point though. The reason I gave that objection is, isn't it the case that, okay, but if you sell changing the world to everybody, then you're having a quantifiable, measurable way to quantify your point of changing the world.
Yeah.
Because the more people you sell on starting the process of education. Now, here's the thing. Somebody, you could talk to somebody and they could be like these people you're talking about. They could just be like, fuck you for making me feel bad how dare you tell me I should do anything with my life that matters or anything or whatever your bullshit, or you think you can just tell everybody what's best for me. How do you know what's best for me? How dare you? You're just trying to control me. They could say all that kind of stuff. But does that mean that what you did was not best?
Like, how is that an indicator at all of
exactly
what you're doing is quote unquote right or good or valuable or what? It shouldn't invalidate anything.
It's like if you saw a woman with kids and she was just going out drinking on the weekends and you were like, hey, you should be at home with your kids. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, how dare you? How dare you try to control me as a woman and tell me what I should do with my life and try to limit my freedom and all this stuff? And you can be like, okay, you can say all that, you're just trying to make me feel ashamed for pointing out your bullshit.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, just like people, like the cult thing, they're like, you guys are in a cult. Oh, self-perfected. What, you think you're so perfect? Oh, you just think you're already done and you're perfect. I'm like, dude, I didn't come up with the name, but I think it's brilliant because it triggers the shit out of people who are like, oh, you guys just think you're so perfect, don't you? It's like, if you've listened to one of our podcasts, you'll know we don't think that.
Right.
You'll know we're saying we're just like everybody else, but we're just aware that we need to do these things and we're in the process of doing it just like everyone else is, whether they know it or not.
Throughout Self-Perfected and Destiny, we have a couple of retard tests. So one of them is if you quit at the point of thinking that, oh, they think they're perfect.
Right. That's like the first level of filter of like, if you react to that, or like, okay, you are not teachable enough yet.
Because you didn't investigate for yourself even a tiny bit.
You just went, you look for the easiest excuse.
Exactly.
To not actually even listen or anything. You just like, oh, they think they're perfect. They think they're already done. And it's like, and I like what Mitch said. He said, the starting point's the end point.
Oh.
So if you called it self-perfecting, what does that imply?
You'll never get it done.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe you need to listen to Bernard's audio, Self-Perfection, Not a Myth. Oh, you're just following what Bernard said? Oh, you're just a little dogmatic cult member? No. Any more than if I'm like, okay, you don't understand how to factor a quadratic equation. All right, I got an algebra book. You should read that.
Oh, you're just following the algebra book?
Oh, you just think that the algebra book knows everything? It's like, no, I read it. I understand it. I can factor quadratic equations now. I don't have time to explain it to you. So you study it. Here's the tool to build your vocabulary so you can understand the book too. And the thing is, it's like people want to stay, just like you're saying, they want to stay where they're at and they want to find justification. So I know that, like, we know we can't force anybody to do anything. But if somebody is doing something that's not best, what is more important? Me not hurting their feelings?
Right.
Or the fact that they're doing something that's not best?
Yeah.
It's like if somebody was beating up your friend and you yelled at him and they were like, dude, you shouldn't yell at people. That's so wrong, man. You're like, okay, yeah. I mean, generally speaking, you shouldn't yell at people generally, but I mean, in this case, which one actually is the problem here?
And the other excuse that you'll make as an individual of, oh, I don't know if I should tell them that. Why not? Because I don't want to hurt their feelings. It's actually amazing because I know that we've all done this at one point or another, right? We're thinking we're we're so altruistic because we want to make sure that they, we deliver in the best way, but it's bullshit. It's actually just self-interest because you're just afraid of how they're going to react and how you're going to feel when they react. That's the reality of it. Because we know we're not effective in our communication and we know we're not stable. We know how we're weak. We know how we react to people's tones, right? If somebody says, how dare you? We're like, oh shit, dude. And this is for anybody, again, I don't remember if we talked about this on a podcast, but when we say like, okay, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure we did, but I think it was the last one. But then we'd highly suggest like the only way you're going to, the only way is Technotutor and Destiny.
And Jin.
And Jin, yes, right? That's the only way of you getting what you want. If you want to have what you're telling me you want, Jin, Technotutor, Destiny. I'm not saying you have to do it. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But what are we looking for? We're looking for, out of the 100 people that we tell that to, the one.
But think about this. Like, if somebody says you don't have a right to tell me what I should or shouldn't do, even though you're saying like, I don't care if you do it or not. I'm like,
that's why I'm a liberal. That's why I'm on the left.
But think about it. It's like if I was like, Asif, you don't have a right to not do what's best. And you say to me, you don't have a right to tell me that. Well, what gives you the right to tell me I don't have a right
to tell me I don't have a right?
You're telling me I don't have a right to tell you shit.
Yeah.
But then you're exercising your right to tell me what I can't say.
Motherfucker.
Like, if you said, I don't have a right to physically beat you up until you do it, I absolutely agree. No one has that right. You might have the physical ability to do it, but that's not a right that you have.
Right.
That's not acceptable. But if you're saying someone can't tell you Now, is there effective ways to tell somebody and effective ways to non-effective ways? Absolutely. So there's definitely, if you're not getting the feedback from somebody that they're being persuaded, that implies that you have to grow in your communication abilities.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, well, you didn't effectively persuade me, therefore I'm going to hold that against you for the rest of your life. It's like, no, that's just an excuse. That's just an excuse. You want to hold on to your self-interest. You want to hold on to where you're at. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't, you're not holding me back by doing that. You're holding yourself back.
Yeah, it's really silly when people hold grudges, like, because
correct me if you guys disagree with me, but is this like I from my experience, what I can see within myself, like men have a much easier time not holding grudges.
I think so, but also I've only had examples of women holding grudges in my immediate environment.
There you go.
Yeah, but I've definitely been around a lot of men, a lot of women, and generally speaking, that's been the case.
And I think that is because it's like men tend to be more like,
the female ego point, like that, the article, women are much more like specifically influenced by social groups. And so if there's a conflict in a social group, it's like problem, versus being Cameron could, like, I just remember before, like, whatever, 2020, 2019, we'll have a massive fucking argument and then we'll get on a group call. No problem. We got the point. It's like, move on. Cool. We have things to do from a certain perspective.
Exactly.
Versus,
it's like, all right, cool. Next.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't even need the person to apologize.
Yeah.
Like, not that that's necessary. I'm just saying, like, you literally don't care. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not looking for that. But the female tendency is like, oh, you're supposed to apologize, and then we have to accept the apology. And that's the female way of doing it. I get it. That works for female.
And then we go out to brunch.
Right.
And if brunch
and
goes
then we
well,
talk about how Rebecca, well, I'm using people we know. I'm not trying to make it about somebody we know. Like, who's a woman? Emily. I don't think I know any Emilys that are in our circle of people. We're gonna go out to lunch and it's all good and we're gonna talk shit about Emily. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't know what she did to me today. And all.
Man, I'm
stuff,
so
right?
glad you apologized, because I hated talking shit about you behind your back. So now I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore.
You were talking shit about me behind my back? Oh my God.
Oh, it's off. I hate you now.
This is why we need
guys don't do that. And I'm not saying women.
We're characterizing it, right? Just to be clear. But yeah.
Men, it is possible for men to hold grudges. It's possible that women don't do this as well, but it's just, you tend to see it play out that way. But, the thing that comes right immediately to mind is that it's like a sports thing. It's like when you play sports, you hate the person that's on the other side.
Yeah.
But then
in the sense that, like, I want you to fucking lose. But then after the game is over,
high fives.
Who cares? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because you could even be doing that with your actual team members doing a scrimmage at practice.
So true.
You see what I'm trying to say? Like,
interesting.
I'm just that maybe that's just because men have that tendency and they're in sports. I don't know. It's just that's the first thing that comes up. Or it's like you can be wrestling with each other and you start punching each other and then you're mad and you're like fighting over a girl or something. And then next thing you're like, who cares? Do you see what I mean? So there's like this. Now, what I would guess, though, is that men who don't have those qualities would be more like men who are more on the less assertive, confident side.
More feminine, yeah.
Are going to be more on the holding grudges. They're going to be more like that.
You know what? It's a point of the fear of conflict. Men who are more comfortable within being able to handle confrontational situations versus the feminine men like me. I remember who I was when I was like, I don't want to tell this person I have a conflict with them. So I'm just going to hold it inside of me and just be spiteful, like low key. Right. And
wow. Yeah. Cause that's definitely a very feminine thing.
Because you don't want to fight.
Toxic feminine thing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's like men are more disagreeable in that manner. So we don't have an issue being like, here's my fucking conflict with you. Why did you do that? Right. And then just, okay, we're good. Move on with it versus what I've noticed with, generally speaking, with women is it'll be much more like, I'm not going to say, hey, she's a fucking bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And the reason is there's more a tendency to be more agreeable. Right. And that's definitely statistically proven.
That's
in terms of
yeah.
the agreeable personality.
Oh yeah, no, that's like a thing. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know how we got on this topic, or where to go from here.
Drake was talking about something, and then Karen was like, "Hey,
I just brought up the grudge point because I just see that it's like, it's like fucking let it go and move on. Now, if you see that somebody is not changing, but the problem is it's so easy to take your memories of the past of someone and then take everything that they're doing and twist it into that.
Fit it into that. Yeah.
It's like, for example, if you participate in Self-Perfected, you'll see there's no fucking leader. It's just there's people like anybody who's in the group who's serious and wants to be someone who's on a call and like giving the perspective and like we do on the Hangouts, just say something. Just be like, hey, I'd like to try to lead a call. What do you guys think about? What do you want to talk about? Okay. And you're going to look at them and say like, is this person actually walking their process or not?
Yeah.
And you say, yeah, you're actually doing it. You're not making excuses. Cool. Do it.
Yeah.
Because you have a responsibility to everybody else not to put some bullshit up there.
Right.
Right. But what I'm saying is there is no like, well, everyone's praying to Drake because you're the amazing one and everyone does exactly what you say and all this stuff. Right. That's not what this is about. But
not
if
that you're not
somebody
amazing,
on the outside
Drake.
was like, you guys are just brainwashing everybody and everything. It's like, okay, you're not actually looking at what's going on. You're not hearing anything. You're not actually participating. You're just wanting it to be that. So you have an excuse.
Not exactly.
To not actually stand up, to not hold yourself accountable and so forth. And what I understand is that is a lack of vocabulary. So that person can either listen and I can persuade them and they can use the tools, or that's not somebody we can help right now. That we can, it's not about helping. It's just not somebody that we can get through to. They're just going to have to be a part of the problem, I suppose, until they perhaps they experience enough pain where they're like, okay, you know what, this way I'm doing it actually isn't working for me or anyone else. And I'm ready to stop causing pain in my life and other people's lives.
See that's
Necessary suffering, right? Huh?
When we were talking about before, when I was saying how you want to do something, some kind of business or job that will be that your finances will reflect how much you're changing. So it's a great way to measure process. But you're making this point of like, do you want to just go get any job? You can, in terms of measuring your process of developing your communication, but just developing your communication without some kind of guiding principle. Because I can develop my communication to make everybody hate me. And you can measure that very easily.
I'm a living example of that.
Exactly. Right. Man, watching you develop like the way you use Facebook and all that stuff over like the last like 5 years has been so fucking cool. Because you could remember at the beginning all the conflict and all that shit and how you would handle it. And
I'd be like on Facebook going like, God does not exist. Prove me wrong. And I know people were going to get mad just because I wanted to see what they would say. And if I could.
And people are like, I hate it when you do this prove me wrong podcast. You're such an asshole. And you're like,
but I get
you're mentally
100 comments easily on it. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can hate it, but it works.
Yeah, it's true. Every single time.
Because I can talk about, hey, here's education. Here's what it's really about and so forth. And no one comments.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I mean, which is more effective? That's when you look at media and like, oh, everything's just so negative on the news. And it's like, yeah, but you're talking about it.
Right.
Oh, got him.
Like, would you even have talked about what's on the news or be watching it if it wasn't negative? So I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that is the way our nature is programmed at the moment.
So in that point of, doing something that reflects your development, you can develop any which way, but what I would suggest is the destiny principles are the best thing to develop yourself within, because if you, in any circumstance, when you do something that is, slap the mic a little bit, mic slapper.
Slap that like
slap my mic up.
Slap that like and I'll slap my mic. When you're doing something that's not best, you're always going to create consequences. And we don't just mean, because consequences in and of itself is a neutral word. Garen's got the fucking.
No, you just made such a good point. It's like, if somebody's like, well, how do you know what's best? I'm like, we're not trying to tell you.
Because every time I try to do something else, my life would get fucked up.
It's like, just look at what it is you're doing and is it best? It's like, well, you're abusing this term best for all just to control people. But really not. We're really just telling you to take it on yourself and figure it out for yourself.
Right.
So you can.
Yeah, but Bernard said that you should
show me in the Self-Perfected
you should always
group where
test his words.
Right.
like,
Show
yeah,
me the
that's what we're
self-perfected
doing.
where we put the rules of these are the behaviors that are best.
Somebody,
Right.
no, somebody said to do that. Somebody said to do that. They said you should just be clear that everybody has to do this if they want to participate. It's like,
Oh, that's
that's
right.
not what it is, though. That's
Dude,
not what
what?
it is. It's like we're talking about the process on understanding things to the degree where you see why, writing out your past memories and forgiving them and letting go would be beneficial to you. We're talking about people understanding why, if you develop these specific points of vocabulary and communication ability and upping your processing ability, why that would be beneficial for your life, and why doing what's best or living by these 13 principles would be best for you.
Yeah, and just think about this. It's like, okay, someone says to you, well, you can't determine what's best for someone else.
Got
Like,
it.
well, I'm not trying to determine what is best for someone else. Like, I'm going to control you like a robot. But correct me if I'm wrong. Shouldn't you do always what is best for all?
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. Like, what the fuck? I'm not telling you what to do.
You know what? There was a
you're trying to
point.
tell me what to do and saying it's best for all. I'm like, I'm not telling you to do anything.
There was a point years ago, right? Before I was a distributor, I had Technotutor, and there was this, I think it was a one-on-one phone call, me and you, Cameron, and you were talking about doing what is best for all. And I was like, and you're like, what's up? And I was like, I just feel like you just have to sacrifice to do what is best for all, because I had some idea that was playing in my mind, but I wasn't aware of it. And then you said, where in the words best for all is there not best for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just talking about the literal best. And then I realized in that moment, and yes, this is because I had an effective vocabulary to a degree where I could see these things because I could work through some of my beliefs and I was using Technotutor. But when you said that, I was like, wow, all Cameron was saying was we should do what is best for all. And then when he said that, I created a bunch of information came into my mind of what that would look like. And it all had to do with me like slaving away for some reason or like sacrificing things and all these things where it's like, wait, but he's just talking about it conceptually right now. And I'm assuming the worst of every possible thing, where assuming the worst literally shows that I'm not thinking of what he just said, which is the best. So my point there being that it's like automatically, if you don't purify your vocabulary, we'll say something, right? And for example, right, it's the exact same, what we're seeing happening, and you guys will understand what I'm referring to, but it's like if Cameron says something about Black people, automatically, because Cameron's a white dude, like his starting point is just racism.
I thought you were going to say because
white
he's a white supremacist.
Well, there you go. Like, because he's white, he's a white supremacist. Therefore, he's just trying to disparage Black people.
Okay.
It's like, but if we took
Where's the
those
hypothetical
words,
part?
The what?
Oh, I was just waiting for the hypothetical part in what you were saying.
the point is, if you put those words in a vacuum, it's like everybody would agree with it. You should do what is best for all. But it's like when you say it, though, you're talking about an evil, malicious plan to get me to brainwash me and give up on my rights to eat your. Now I have to eat your ass every day. You're like, where did I say? Where? Well, actually, but no, seriously, it's like
you want to do what's best for all.
But you know what I'm saying, though? It's like you say a statement, and then people have all these projections of who you are and what you stand for and all this stuff because of whatever group that you're associated with.
The only reason why this happens is people get triggered.
Yeah.
Like, and I know somebody's gonna be like, oh, you just think everything you say is right and you're never wrong. And it's like, I know I make mistakes, obviously. But even that being the case, it's not an excuse that someone else, therefore, I'm the reason why they can't do X, Y, and Z. Because if I make mistakes, then so do they.
You got him? So
then in that process where they are saying I'm wrong about what I'm saying, if you know what I'm trying to say, if I'm having a disagreement with somebody, right? If I say to you, look, you don't care about anybody, you don't want to do what's best. And that's why you wouldn't support what we're doing. You wouldn't be a part of Self-Perfected and so forth. And it's like, you're just trying to get people into Self-Perfected. by abusing the term best for all and lying to them so they'll join self-perfected. Okay, let's assume that's first of all, yeah, I am using the term best for all to explain why people should join self-perfected. On the surface, 100% true.
I'm using the term self-perfection to describe why people should join self-perfected. Oh, you're just trying to say that.
I'm saying, okay, but let's just take it. Okay, so am I saying
yeah,
it's best for all to join self-perfected? Yes. Okay. Well, is it best for all or not?
Are you asking me? Because I know the answer.
I can give you the objection if that's what you want.
Well, hold on. You can, but first of all, my point is that should be the conversation. What I've noticed also, since this is a misogynistic conversation that we're having here, this is the misogynistic podcast, women tend to argue about the form of your argument rather than the argument.
Right. Yes.
It's the thing between, typically with men and women.
Did you just look at somebody?
You're saying it, it's like, okay, can we move past that? But the actual thing I'm saying, well, I know, but that's not what you were saying before. I'm like, can we stop arguing about the argument?
Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying it with the rude tone. Are we cool?
Then it becomes a C. I knew you were trying.
I know.
This is like a conflict between men and women, right?
Yeah.
So it's always men and a woman. It's this interplay between, I would say, a masculine, feminine point, right? Mm-hmm. So the form does matter, because if your form is not effective at getting across to the person, you need to become better, 100%. Okay, so if men are not,
what I noticed is the there's an inverse relationship between the amount of trauma, or the amount of trauma and triggers within somebody, and the number of ways that you can say something that they'll accept it. So the more and more people have not walked their process and worked through their shit, the less and less they can accept as a package of information.
That's a good point. That's why Katie and I, our disagreements don't become explosive, because we've walked the process. And so if I say something blunt to her or vice versa, we might slightly take it personally, but it doesn't go very far, because we immediately like, wait, I'm reacting. Okay, let me just get back. What are you exactly saying here? Let's get back to the point here. So, but if you haven't actually done that, you'll just react and go into reaction, and your mind and your thoughts will start spinning, and all the reasons why that person. And one thing that really helped me in my own personal process so far was from Mary Miller, where she said, like, the arguments become this point of a game called Who's the Biggest Victim? And I would catch myself being like, I'm just trying to prove that I'm the one that's hurt in this context. So stop. What if I actually didn't give a fuck about whether I'm hurt or not? Okay, now what are we actually dealing with here? See what I mean? I want to ask Drake, what was that point you were going to say was the objection? Do you remember when I was talking?
Yeah. Because you were saying.
So your question was, is joining self-perfected?
Right. Not, am I using best for all terminology to get people to do it?
Right.
Because clearly we are, as we don't need to argue about that.
Yeah.
But is it actually best for all to join self-perfected and do Destiny and use Technotutor and be a partisan? That's what I want to talk about. So
yeah. So the objection would be like, is it best for all to join self-perfected? The objection they would say is, well, how would you know that it's best for all for people to join self-perfected? Like, how do I know? Like, maybe there's something else that's better. Maybe there's something else. Yeah.
Perfect. I know it. You don't know it. Does you not knowing it make what I know incorrect? And isn't it possible that you could be saying it's not best just because you don't want to challenge yourself and grow and go out of your comfort zone and take more responsibility? Like I think it was Drake or one of you guys was saying earlier, this point people don't want to, yeah, it was you, Drake. You think they don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah. And
I was saying a step further, yeah, because you actually don't care. No one is programmed to care about anybody in this world. We're programmed to not care on purpose, because you have to desensitize yourself to accept the bullshit in this world. So when you get to the next point of like, oh, I actually have to start caring, then you have to actually act like you care. You have to act like you care to actually start caring. Because when
that's so true.
Like you care, you start to actually care. You start to go, whoa, I actually do care about making a difference. Like, I mean, am I like confronted by starving children every day? No. So I can't like always be like, oh, it's just so tragic. Oh. Like I can't always be thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I actually care. Does that make me a better person than someone else? No, it doesn't. It literally doesn't make me a better person. Like, but also guess what? I don't care if I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm a better person. I actually just care about having a really amazing life and doing everything I can to make that as amazing as possible. And you know what gives me a lot of satisfaction is doing the best possible thing I can. That's my internal judgment process that I've developed within myself. Somebody else can be like, oh, well, I just don't care about that. It's like, okay, well then what are you saying? Like you care about not doing what's best and that's just what makes you like, well, no, you just can't do what's best. And it's not a thing you can do. Okay, so what do you care about? Like, because, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know how you can rationalize the point. Like,
and that's my point. That's my point.
And also, like, I think people will come back to this point of like, well, you just think you're better. It's like only people with low self-esteem think like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you actually have high self-esteem, you don't compare yourself to other people anymore.
You know, that's a
you're
measurement of
with
nothing.
Yourself to be better. You just stop playing that game. And that is a process. Like, somebody's gonna be like, oh, you just think you're so amazing because you just don't think you're better than anybody. It's like, holy fuck, like you're really wrapped up in this who's better or not. It's like, stop playing that game. You know, and what's interesting is you stop playing it as your vocabulary goes up. Because you start having self-esteem and you start going, oh my gosh, like I just like doing things.
It doesn't matter who thinks.
Like, I want you to be better too because I can do more things.
I
want my kids to be amazing. I want your kids to be amazing. So my kids have people to play with.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm so dedicated to supporting you guys to like get your shit together, which not in a superior way, but just like understand and not make the mistakes I made as a parent. Like, get your shit together faster than I got my shit together. So you've already got it together instead of still getting it together like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, nailed it.
Not as a, I'm better than you, as a get your shit together. So when you have kids, you won't do all this bullshit and they'll be amazing. And they can work. So my kids, finally, my kids can have some kids they can relate to.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we were watching these videos online of 2.5-year-olds. So kids the same age as Seneca talking. And like all different videos of different kids, like examples. And it was like, where is the cat? And the kid would be like, meow, the meow meow outside. And Seneca would be like, Cameron, the cat ran outside and I can't find her. That's like, I'm telling you, like the difference in what you saw versus what's the standard versus like where Seneca's at.
Yeah.
You know? And so what was I saying? Point is, it's like, I'm not even trying to impress somebody by saying I genuinely care about doing what's best. I'm just saying like I do. And the only way that I can actually accomplish the things I want to accomplish is if other people also do that. And so anybody who's against that, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying you have your own agenda and you just want everybody to do your agenda. So it's like, if you think that us standing for what's best for everybody and saying that and creating what we're creating and developing and supporting and so forth, or whatever we're doing is like, we're just trying to get people to join something. It's like, well, what do you want people to join?
Right.
Just join your idea of not doing what's best. How is that going to help anything? And maybe the measurement isn't about helping. Maybe it's just about your own personal happiness. And that's all that you care about. Well, that's fine. And that's what I care about. And this is what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Genuinely. So what's the actual disagreement? And so then it becomes a point where it's like, oh, wait, nobody's actually against us.
You were making this point earlier about like bringing in this person's past and filtering everything that they do through that. Right. And it's the exact same point that I walked through with my mom of like, that's constantly what I was doing with my mother. It was just, you know, before I had Tech-Night Tutor, it was just everything she does, she's a bitch. Even if she was trying to help me, I would always be on the defense, even just picking up her calls. I would screen her calls like, nah, we're not doing this month. Nope. Like it would literally be months before I would pick up her calls. And then when I would, it would just be like a short interaction of like, look, I feel like I just talked to you. And like, when I started using TechnoTutor, I was specifically focused on that point, not because I wanted to make our relationship better at all, but really just because I wanted to have it off of my mind, and be able to just continue my own life and focus on what I wanted to focus on. But from using TechnoTutor, doing DIP, like basically talking with the people within the group, I was able to, and at that time it wasn't even like a big group, but getting support from like you and Avery, Cameron and Avery, right? Eventually I was able to actually let go of all of the past memories or emotions that were tied to those memories, I should say, because I could still remember the things that happened. It's not like I lost my memory. And I was still able to see very objectively, these are the things that happened, but I wasn't emotionally tied to those things, where it was like I felt like I needed to defend myself. And so then I could actually have a conversation with my mother there as the person in this moment versus all the memories that I had of her and the past of her, and trying to fight through that and not being able to actually hear her. And so when I was able to have a conversation with her presently, then she was able to hear me too. And we could actually like move together in the same direction. She started actually like, now she was interested in, oh, what are you doing? Like, what's this DIP thing? Like, she started taking it on for herself, and then now, like, she's pretty cool. She's pretty supportive.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it's Max. Is he trying to explain something to us? Cameron's going.
You want to tell them about it?
Well, it's like a circuit because when I threw the ball, it like when I tried to throw the ball at the wall, it like burst open, and then what came out, and then like what happened, it's this weird circuit.
Oh,
Dude.
wait.
Yeah, I think it's with the LEDs.
Was it a ball that lights up? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, check this out. Look, there's a little spring on it. When I flick the spring, it activates the LED.
It's flashing in his face.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Okay, let's play a game.
Okay, what?
I'll do it, and then you have to say something about it.
Like what? Is there a
Okay.
suggestion of what we say, or?
Well, you like do anything you want to say.
Okay.
Just say stuff.
Flarkle.
Labadoo.
No.
Oh,
Here comes Zinni.
Max, what should we say?
You want to come up here, Sin? Here we go. Munchkin time.
Munchkin Patrol.
Munchkins. Oh, they're slipping. The munchkins are slipping.
Put stick on my head.
Put it on top of your head.
What's up, Zeneca?
If she'll be stable right there.
What's up, Buttercup? No. You guys, it's like faded tie-dye shirts, kind of.
Can I play
Yeah.
some?
Yeah,
Where'd
cool.
you get these shirts from?
Flashing, you have to say something. Nice one.
Huh?
Lollipop.
Lollipop.
Oh,
This is strawberry anyway.
strawberry lollipop.
Mm.
Mm.
Hey, Cindy, do you want to talk about something you've done today? What's
It's
something that
it's
you've
from
done today?
Sprouts. It's from Sprouts.
Huh?
It's like Sprouts is. We got this from.
You did
S-
TT?
It's like
Oh.
we've got a whole bag of them. Cinco also ate one. She just doesn't have any.
Let me ask Cindy a question real quick. What did you do in TT today?
I did sound.
You did what?
Sound.
Sound?
Yeah.
You did the word sound?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What else did you do?
I sound.
Yeah? Why were you doing the word sound?
I did it.
Because you did it. But what did you guys get yesterday?
It's because,
What?
Well, it's because we're
Some
doing
shirts?
harmonica.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to see. if Cindy would tell.
Harmonica.
Tell us about your harmonica, Sin.
I sing it.
Yeah? What is a hum? She's singing a Yellow Magic Orchestra song.
Oh yeah. Is that
Yellow
Technopolis?
Who are the? Okay, let me ask a question. Let me ask Cindy, and then I'll ask you, Max, to see if it's correct. Who plays the keyboards in Yellow Magic Orchestra? Sakamoto. Who plays the drums in Yellow Magic Orchestra? Takahashi. And who plays the bass? Hosono. Yeah, that's right.
But
So-
sometimes he might just
Okay, but who plays the keyboards, or who's the one who sings with glasses in Devo?
Sing a Yellow Magic Orchestra song.
Okay, we'll play the game. Guess the song. Ready? Technopolis. Dun, 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 by Dean. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna switch up the genre. Dun, 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 dun.
She said Coltrane.
Giant steps. Yeah. Okay. Dun, dun, dun,
By
dun,
John
dun,
Coltrane.
dun, dun,
That's
dun, 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 dun,
Whip it.
That's right. Okay. How about dun, 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 dun.
9.
Dun, dun. Track 9. Track 9 of what?
By Nutcracker.
The Nutcracker.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
She said 9. It's like track 9. Track it is. You're so smart.
Cat 9.
Track 9. You are so smart. We're doing a podcast right now. Did you know that?
Mhm.
You're on the podcast.
Anything you guys want to share? You guys are being interviewed now. I can ask you guys a question.
Okay. Asif Smith.
Max, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's probably 100 people who listen to this. What's something that you would want to tell them
Well,
on how they can improve themselves? How about that?
I would say, well, I'll tell them that.
Come over here near the mic so they can hear you.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, Technotutor is really best, and it's just so really good. Because why is it best?
Why is it best?
Why?
Why? Why?
Do you know why?
Well, is it? Well, because it teaches you way better than school.
Teaches you better than school?
Yeah.
Why do you use it, Maximus?
What?
Why do you use TechnoTutor?
Because it supports me. And also, do you know why Katie uses it?
Why?
How come?
It's because she uses it because when she's feeling emotional, she kind of does teaching, and then she finds out why she's being emotional.
And then what?
And then she can stop being emotional.
Wow, that's what I use it for too. That's really great. Me and Katie on the same page. Drake, you too?
Yeah. I do
Cameron?
the same.
Cool. Max, have you ever done that for yourself?
No.
No? What's something recent that you've learned with TechnoTutor?
Well, like playing harmonica.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
You know, I bought a harmonica.
Tell us about Japanese.
Duh.
What are the 3 different scripts?
Kanji, katakana, and harakana.
Hiragana?
Hiragana, yeah.
Which
I
one is
can't
probably like the
verify.
most complex?
Kanji.
Yeah,
Kenji.
yeah, that's true. He's learning about hiragana right now in the TechnoTutor.
Here.
Oh, and katakana? Okay.
That's pretty
Cool.
cool.
Interesting. Seneca, what's up? What's up, baby sis?
Oh, what book are we reading right now together?
Hobbit.
The Hobbit?
The Hobbit. The
What
Hobbit.
else? What are the one you're reading with Katie?
Watership Down.
Watership Down? Cindy, what is Watership Down about? What's happening in that book?
somebody got killed.
A bunny got killed.
No,
Somebody.
All the bunnies got killed, but
Oh,
not,
all the bunnies.
but not Hazel.
Not Hazel.
No,
Oh, what happened with Hazel?
he's the leader.
Oh. Can you tell me more about Hazel?
Hazel just went away.
He just ran away.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cause all the bunnies was killed.
All the bunnies were scared, or did you say they were killed?
They were scared.
They were
Well,
scared.
some of them were killed, but some of them were scared, and I think Buckthorn was one of the ones Buckthorn got killed.
What happened to Buckthorn?
Buckthorn?
What happened to Buckthorn, Sunny?
Buckthorn.
What happened to him?
He got killed.
Oh, okay.
That's not true.
Is it?
What happened to Buckthorn in the barn?
She's got this big smile on her face.
You know what happened with Buckthorn in the barn?
Yeah.
What about Bigwig? What happened to him?
He got stuck in here.
He got stuck in the snare.
Yeah.
Can you explain what a snare is, Cindy?
I know something tied around his neck.
Got tied around his neck.
Tied around his neck?
Oh, no.
Oh.
It's just a trap for bunnies.
Right.
Ah, okay.
With traps for bunnies.
Oh.
Hmm.
That's
Interesting.
interesting. And then tell me about the Hobbit. Who are some characters in the Hobbit? Who
I
are
see
some
your
Max.
foot.
That's so funny. I have a video of you, Max, when you're about, I think, 1.5 or something like that, where Cameron's like, show me your foot. And then your foot just comes out of nowhere, just like that. I'll show you it later.
What about the Hobbit? Do we know any characters in the Hobbit?
Yeah.
Who? He hasn't really been reading the Hobbit with us very much. Just Max and I.
No, but Smog.
Ooh, who's Smog? We play a game where we get under the covers and we pretend like Smog is outside. And what do we say?
No.
And then we get under the covers in the cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that fun?
And I say, and you know what I say? I say, Smog, go.
Yeah.
I say it a little bit different.
And then there's a tiger in the cave. And what do?
Kick him.
We kick the tiger? Why?
Because we also fight, and we also fight the dragon. Well, the tiger fights the dragon. Smog.
Let me ask you a question. Are dragons real?
No.
Oh, okay. You're right. Are horses real?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Horses are real.
Bunny's really tough.
Do bunnies really talk?
No.
Do what else? Do hobbits exist?
No.
What do you think, Max? Do hobbits exist?
Dwarves don't exist either.
Dwarves? Not the kind that they talk about. Sometimes we call some people who are very short dwarves, but they have like a genetic condition. But they're not magical like in the book that we're reading.
I want the dwarves magical.
Hold on. What did you say, Sam?
I want to play small game with
You want to play the smog game? Well, we have to finish our little podcast. Maybe we can just wrap it up since this is the outro part with all the kids in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to? Okay. How about we'll do this? Everybody knows about the websites and all that. We don't need to say all that. Do you guys want to say bye to everybody and say, oh, are we going to be in Orlando, all of us,
Yes.
in August?
And with you, right?
And who
That's
else?
right.
Woo! Asif too. He's going to be there.
I'm coming.
We're all gonna be there. Are we gonna have fun?
I'm not sure what happens
You know,
I'll be there.
because, like, he would order my clothes.
What? Say that again?
explain.
If you live in Canada,
That's right.
and Canada is not in the United States.
That's right. But I'm going to take a plane and I'm going to fly over to the United States. Like Avery.
But you have to drive because I don't let you do it because like the border might get closed, I think.
The border might get closed. That's
It
possible.
might. The current state of affairs, I'm able to fly.
Yeah,
But we'll
right
see
now
what
it's-
happens when the time comes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it cutting
so
out?
Probably.
He
Okay,
is.
you guys want to say bye? Huh?
Or is it on this side?
No, you did it right.
This one?
But yeah, we'll all hang out in Orlando. It'll be a lot of fun.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
All right, you guys
Can you
want to
bring
say
a
bye?
lollipop for me,
Dinner,
Max?
and we can
No,
play the
just-
smog game.
Maybe can. Maybe I think can. Wait. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, wait. One more question. Ask
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Are you older or is Kian older?
Kian is older. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Just in case you thought I was joking. Okay. Ooh, full circle. You started with that, and now we're ending with that.
The purple. Did you know that Cameron's screen got cracked?
Yeah,
Did it?
that's why I have this new monitor.
Is that right?
Da, da, da.
Your MacBook screen?
Yep.
Oh wow.
You know, you look. You are actually in a square. You're in a square too. And Drake's also in a square.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right, everybody. Let's say bye, and then we'll see everybody on the next one.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.